Oh no, not okay. Something has gone very, very wrong. William, I lost track with reality for a second. I was wondering like what I was doing and where I was at, and then I remembered that, of course, I'm juggling. Ah. Damn it. I'm making industrial house. It's the way it's supposed to sound. Yeah, hold on, I lost my balls. Somewhere around here. So you have the art of one-handed juggling. Yeah. Maybe just keep doing that, right? And then you gotta get the other hand involved, and you have to get the third ball. Third testicles, they're very complicated. They're unpredictable. I mean, you just start, doing stuff like that. Yeah, where it goes, nobody knows. And then, look, the problem is, my tape froze a long time ago, man. Okay, so I'm supposed to stay. Why, thank you. I'm supposed to stay active until I've got a couple more hours to stay active. So here I am doing a bunch of dance, doing off camera, and we'll adjust our lighting. Send it this way. There we go. What is up with all the racism, bro? Like, why do we all gotta be hating on each other and stuff, man? I don't want all this white guilt projected at me. What did I do to deserve it? I didn't my name's not Jim fucking Crow, man. I mean, I love monkeys and raccoons as much as the next guy. That's all I'm saying. I mean, and I love queso chips, even though they don't spell cheese the English way. Okay, I don't know what they've done to society. It's all fucking screwed up. Ah! rides in on his razor scooter with his white privilege and tries to tell us how we should behave. Who is this guy and who does he think his mother was? Don't you know everything by now? I mean, I don't know if the whole fucking bag.
Why am I just now hearing of these queso chips? I love that they're racist in the name by assuming that everyone must be Hispanic, but I have to know about these things. Are they as delicious as you make them sound?
Oh yeah, they're more delicious than they sound. I mean, it doesn't matter what language you speak it in.
Does it taste like queso?
It depends on your definition of queso, but yes, I mean technically,
Like at the
probably.
Mexican restaurants, you get the cheese, it's goat cheese.
Oh yeah, it definitely tastes like that. Yes.
Oh, I just had a taste bud boner. I've got to find these things.
So wait. I need to get a chair. I need to sit down.
No, you have to stay active for a couple more hours.
Well, I mean, I just technically I'm supposed to stay awake, but
Well, could you just dance a little bit in your chair from time to time? Just wiggle it some.
I can do this.
Oh yeah, that's what Daddy does.
What have you done? What have you done to piss off the whole community that I live in, bro? Like, why are they so upset with you?
I asked them what they meant by pro-trans.
Oh, and they weren't talking about like wait, what's the word? There's proscriptive. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So do you hate trans people? Are you completely against trans rights? Do you think they should just be wiped off the face
Whoa,
of the
that's
earth?
a lot of questions. Take it easy. Let's do one at a time. Just pick one. Let's go with one.
All right, wait. Do you think trans people should be eradicated?
No.
No, definitely not. Why would you think that? That doesn't make sense. Okay, wait.
That sounds pretty Hitlery.
Do you think there's a trans agenda that makes we want to indoctrinate children? Yes.
Yes, that's been pretty demonstrated. That's going
on. Wait.
We're trying to develop a support network for we're trying to change society so that this fraction of a percentage of a group feels comfortable with what they've got going on. Like it's supposed to be almost elevated to a status level that normal people can't criticize. And honestly, if someone would just ask me about it like you have, I would just tell you, for the most part, I'm apathetic about it. I haven't any reason to believe it's something I should be very concerned about. I mean, I'm not mad at anybody, but the exaggerated claims of people hunting down trans people and slaying them in the streets and whatnot. I mean, it's coming off clownish. It's coming off clownish, and until I have a genuine reason to be concerned about it, I'm gonna just remain apathetic.
There are two issues there. One is the claim that how did you word it now? So you said, okay, trans people are being slain in the street. That's a fact that we know happens. Now,
if you're making the claim, then you might be the one to put this to rest for me. If you could show me where that's happening, that might help me. No one's been able to do that yet.
Well, I mean, okay, even if you'd say like homophobic slangs, but let's just say trans.
Yeah, I got no problems with gay people, lesbians. I have no problems with them, or bisexuals. I think they're great.
Okay, so at least according to Human Rights Campaign, at least 8 transgender or gender nonconforming people's lives have been tragically or inhumanely taken through violent means, including gun and interpersonal violence in 2023. So that's,
Right. How
that's
many of
8
those were
people.
suicides? Are we sure that none of those are suicides? Because I'm getting gun violence, but who's shooting them?
No, we don't know that for sure, but bullying is a tactic we could definitely run with if you're going with that one.
That's an indirect kind of attribution. If you say that you can attribute these things to bullying, then now we're talking about words, right? We're saying because someone doesn't agree with what I'm choosing to do with my life, I'm being bullied.
But if you bullied a teenage girl, you would get a very different response, right? It's only if it's a teenage trans girl that you seem to draw this distinction.
No, I mean, I think that bullying has its place. I mean, I was bullied, and when I was being bullied, I hated it until I learned to accept that people are going to exercise their views onto you, and so you've got to stop giving a fuck about what they think about you. And I don't care that they think that I'm bullying just because I don't support them. I don't know that I should support them yet. They've given me no reason to support them. They just accuse me of being a bigot when I say define your terms.
Well, no. You can support most trans people without, I mean, so the singular group you're dealing with does not represent all trans people any more than you represent all of whomever you
raccoons.
Right, all raccoons, yeah.
Right. Well, and I don't assume that they do, but if they're making arguments and demanding that I somehow join in on something, they have to explain what it is I'm supposed to be joining on to. So if I'm saying, what do you mean by pro-trans? I mean, are you asking me if I support people's rights to identify however they want to, or what? That's fine. I don't give a shit. But if you're saying, do I think it's right to pressure children to accept that as something that they should, they should look at life that way, that because they're not quite settled in their gender, that they must necessarily be trans, because that's a part a part of life.
Do you think it's harmful to just educate children in this way to say, well, this may be how you identify later, right? And we can still educate them about those issues without trying to influence them.
Do a website. Yeah, do a website. Give them access to it. That's great, but don't put it in schools. Parents don't want that shit. They want to talk to their kids about it when they're ready to talk about it, when they think that their kids psychologically ready to deal with these new concepts. But first, they need to be grounded in what the ideas of roles are in society.
I don't feel
decide whether they think it's normal or even acceptable.
I don't think that average parents really are interested in having this conversation. I think they would prefer have somebody qualified, somebody who's paid to do this thing, explain it to their kids, but only in a way that they find acceptable.
So right? What is wrong with having a free website where all these people can? I mean, that's not asking taxpayer dollars. That's none of that stuff. The teachers.
Well, no, but it releases the culpability from the parent. The parents, and the school teachers, they never have to actually, yeah. So then, no individual in this child's upbringing is actually responsible for their sexual education. We can just blame the internet.
Who is responsible for their children's sexual education? Like, what do you mean responsible?
Well, I think
what am I required to tell my kid?
Well, you're required to explain where babies come from and how that process occurs, and responsibly explain how one chooses a partner. I think that is one's parental obligation. I just think this whole thing's been skewed.
How does trans go into this, though? Because now we're talking about their personal identity and what gender they want to identify as.
When they're going to choose a partner, they have to be able to be open and honest about their identity and themselves.
Right, but why do I need to tell them
going to?
Yeah, they'll figure that out. I don't have to indoctrinate them and give them all the options, because it's not a buffet where you get to choose what you want. It's some things you're just going to want because that's what you are. But I don't need to give you this whole list of options and say choose one, and that's you forever. It's a
Well, but if
fluid
you
thing. Let
tell
the kid.
them, if you don't tell them they have that option, then they would never know, or they'd have to discover
No,
through some other means.
yes, they would discover it on their own by going, "What do I feel about this?" I don't want to put them in any box.
But don't you think your kid would later resent you for not informing you that that option was available, or informing them that the option was available to them?
You don't think that my kids are aware of trans issues since it's all over the news everywhere they turn? It's constantly forced down their throat.
Well, I don't know that. I'm saying
Right.
if
But I'm
they were
telling you in
not
that way
educated
that they
about it.
are. Yeah, like there's nowhere that they can go where it's not being pushed in their face to make this decision. I have a 12-year-old. I mean, I watch him deal with these things in society, these things in media. And we talk about it.
So, do you think that's the level we're on, where kids are overexposed to this, and
Hell
something we
yes.
actually have to?
Hell yes. There's this. I mean, you look at the percentage of people in this fringe group who are demanding that their problem become everyone else's problem. It's not, it's right now, it's not worth my attention because this is an internal struggle that they're having as individuals. I don't need to affirm them. I don't need to condemn them. I just need to let them do their thing until they figure out what it is they're about. And I don't give a shit what it is. But they don't need my help in deciding who they are. They don't need me to give them the thumbs up. I don't ask their validation for who I am. I don't think they need it from me either. That seems weak.
Do you feel like you're being targeted in the atheist community at large, if we're going to use that term or whatever, for holding this view? Do you think?
Yeah, yeah, but I don't care. I mean, again, it would matter if I needed their validation, but I don't need to belong to a group. I just, and I'm not an atheist. I just deconverted from Christianity, and there's all the presumptions that go along with that means that I'm, I guess, a whole new person now, and I'm strictly a left-leaning person who's obligated to agree to everything that anyone on that side suggests is my duty to believe. And that seems unlikely that one change would necessitate the other.
So yeah, if every view you have does not align with mine, then we cannot be friends anymore. We can't have this conversation. It must
Right,
cease.
that would be
I
horrible.
must silence you. Um, but like, okay, to stick to that issue though, because it went all
Sure.
over the place there. You're not for, okay, you're not anti-trans. You're not dismissing the experience of transgender people
No,
who are already, you're just disapproving of the way we're educating children or the way we're educating society in
that
regards to that issue.
we're pressing them to make a decision. And also, if they make a decision that's considered to be normal or too, uh, I no, that's the right word, too normal, would be a normie decision or a breeder decision, then they're almost treated as like they're not fully on board and supportive of the initiative. But again, they're still young. They shouldn't even be pressed into making these decisions. They will discover it as we all did over time. I don't need to prescribe to you who you should fuck.
Yeah, or in what position. I mean, I can only
Yeah.
give suggestions as far as that goes, but reverse cowgirl is always a good one.
Hold on, I'm making a
Um,
list. No, but dude, I don't care that they want to do that. I care that they need me to subscribe to whatever their delusion is.
okay, and then somebody, I guess, not down on the uptake or whatever. Did you use a black man's profile picture? Is that where are you guilty of that?
I used a black man's picture. His name is Veckel. You've met him.
I don't know who that person is. I've never met him
Okay.
before in my life.
No, fantastic.
I
But yeah, I did have a black
denial.
man's. But me using that it's not a racial thing. It's just to antagonize Veckel just because it's a goofy picture of him that I got out of a video. Actually, somebody else got out of a video that he put out. It's on his
Be
channel.
real, William. Be real.
But
It wasn't racially motivated. Are you sure?
yeah,
Because I'm taking
I mean,
notes.
unless
I'm
you
making
need
a
me to
list and
say
I'm
that,
checking it twice.
yeah. If
Just
you
say it
need
for the
me,
sake of this stream, and then we'll clip it. We'll put it up in the
no, it doesn't. It doesn't matter if I do say that. I could say it 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. It's whatever they need to create a boogeyman out of. So I'm happy to let them do that. I think that it's great that they want to make a big deal out of something that I haven't even said yet. They love this shit. So I'm good with letting them play with their ideas. Me using this avatar is enough for them to get upset. Me showing Veckel's picture is enough for them to make the leap that I'm talking about. Black people. They didn't notice that Sparkle had a albino raccoon as his avatar during that stream. They didn't notice that I had pictures of a white guy with beer cans around his waist. It doesn't matter about any of those things. You,
No,
it only
yeah,
matters if
we
you
don't
offend the
care.
special people.
It's the race baiting thing. Like you
Yeah.
don't know what time it is, and we have to inform you. It is racist o'clock. Um, we're calling out all. So you
Well,
went
I
from
don't
being
belong to
a
a racial
trans
group,
hating raccoon,
right?
to a faux black man in the course
No
of
one
this
has ever
stream.
asked me. None of them have ever asked me my race. Have you noticed that? No one. They've only
No,
assumed what my
yes.
race is.
Like, well, judging by your avatar, I would say he was the complexion of a sketch drawing, like a not even a mug shot. Like this is a composite sketch, or he's a very giddy raccoon. I'm not sure.
Sure.
Give the description to the police.
I've actually. That sketch was from my brief appearance in the Aha video from Take on Me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just appeared there briefly. I was an extra. It's just my extra sketch. Anyway, even Jill and Veckel
So
have assumed that I'm half black, and I don't talk about my race very much. I will if someone asks me, but a lot of people just like to assume.
I'm sorry, I just had to respond to that comment in the side chat.
Oh, I can't see the side chat. I was too busy
Was
staring at
it?
your magnificent mustache.
We had all assumed you were an Asian man, but evidently that's not true either. So,
Hi.
was there any actual Was there anything substantive behind the conversation before it got completely derailed, or was that just pretty much it?
It boils down to bad feelings from the week before when I appeared with Cerberus. Although I didn't say anything that I didn't say this time, which was just to ask, what do you mean by pro trans? Because I was informed if you weren't fully pro trans, you needed to leave the stage or the panel to get off the street. So to make sure that I'd belong there, I was like, what do you mean by pro trans? And the world exploded around me. And so Pocket Lockers held a grudge. And then when he saw me at Gers on Friday, he came back in because he found something in the way that I shifted my avatars that he could complain about. And then of course you had the pander bears that were there to pander to Stephanie and Pocket Locker because they need to be good allies and make sure they demonstrate a lot of white guilt or whatever it is. And then we had Oz coming in. Um, Oz pretended to give a shit about my deconversion and then attacked me and used me as a way to make himself seem like a good ally without ever asking me any questions about what I was doing.
Yeah, so I guess there's been a lot of would you say contention about your sincerity as a deconvert and what that means. Like, how should we take that? Like, so
Yeah, that's
you're
a good
still
thing.
questioning, right? And you think it's a good thing?
No, it's a good thing that you're asking about that, or you're talking about that, because a lot
Oh,
of people are not separating the ideas. Just because I'm not a Christian, that I'm all of a sudden, I don't know, whatever they are. You know, whether the atheists think I'm an atheist, the deists assume I'm a deist, or pantheists think I mean, whatever. I have no fucking idea what I am. Just some sort of theist, vaguely. That
so you're
doesn't
still
change
not
my political.
unconvinced of a god. You're still
Oh
not
yeah, I'm not
unconvinced of
unconvinced.
a god.
No, I'm more convinced that there is a God. I just don't know what it is.
And what does the god do?
Whatever it fucking wants, I guess. I don't know.
Does it make things? Does it make people?
I don't know how better to explain that I don't know what it does than just saying it outright. I don't know.
Well, why
I
would
would
you
call
believe
it
him if you don't know
the
it? If you
uncaused
don't know
the
what it's
uncaused
supposed to do?
call it an intuition, the uncaused first cause, whatever.
Okay, prime mover
As
argument, right? You don't know why
sure,
it moves things, but it does.
thought exists. Yeah, minds exist.
All right. Well, that's an interesting other concept. But wait. We go back to you don't hate trans people, but you don't know if you necessarily support them, or you think
I don't know that there's a reason for me to support them.
you don't know that there's a reason for you. Well, okay, they exist.
Sure,
They have an experience. It may be different from yours,
sure.
but we should validate their experience based on the fact that they are people and they are reasonable, right? They're
I
not.
recognize that they're
Or are
having
you?
experiences, but what part do I play in that?
Well, right now your part is just to validate that their experience. They have an experience and they're logical, right?
I
They have a
okay. I
logical
can't.
understanding of what they're experiencing.
I don't know that. Okay, what I can say is that they do exist, and they are having experiences.
Okay, and so do you see this as a mental illness issue?
It could be some sort of dysmorphia.
Okay, well, we call it disassociation, right? But
You can
dissociated
call it whatever you
identity.
like, but you get my meaning.
Well, but in psychology, that's what they call it. They put it in
I'm not a
that box, and it's
psychologist, dude. Don't please don't hold me to those kind of standards. I can only judge things from a layman's perspective.
well, no, I'm giving you my lay explanation as well, but this is my
Oh, my
understanding.
bad.
Is we have, yeah, you have gender dysphoria, right? Dysphoria is a disassociation from that
Oh,
particular
dysphoria.
identity,
My bad. I used the wrong word. Dysphoria. Sorry.
right?
It's different than dysmorphia.
Right. Which is similar but not the same as schizophrenia. You have an alternate personality over here. This is the identity you were kind of born into, and then you're trying to make these two things align or coalesce into one person. Does that make sense? So you're told you should be this person, but you feel you should be this person, and you have to find some middle ground there. Is there anything
I don't.
wrong with that? Like if you can rationalize that, is there anything
No,
wrong with that?
I think everyone has to do that. I think everyone has to do that. We come off and we have prescriptive roles of what we're supposed to be in society, and we have to decide whether that really lines up with what we want to do. You know, what we're about.
Who are we?
The individual, the one
Wait,
living
we
our
are
own
an
lives.
individual? No.
Yes.
We are a collective. The individual is just me, and
Okay,
then we
then
have
you're
we, the
then you can be
collective
the
of
collective.
individuals.
Sure, you can be the collective. I'm not interested in that. I'm an individual. It doesn't matter to me what other people do as long as they don't fuck with me.
But something about people identifying trans seems to fuck with you a bit. And so I'm
No,
trying to figure
where
out
did you
why
get that?
that.
Where did you get that from? What if I said that it doesn't fuck with me? I just don't need to. I said that I don't see a need for me to support it.
Well,
It
what's
doesn't
the
need my
opposite of
help.
supporting it? It doesn't. Okay, it doesn't need your help. Trans people don't need your help
No, not at all.
any more than people of color, minorities, women
Right.
folk.
Yes, they don't need my help. They don't need my validation. They have the same rights as everybody else.
But do other minorities not need your help, or just
What would they
just
need?
trans people?
What help do they need? Are they not equal?
Well, they might not be. It depends on what law you pass in which state. At this rate, like
I don't
today they
know.
might have equal rights, and tomorrow they may lose their health care.
Okay, so if you think healthcare is a right, that's fine. That we can debate that. But I don't see how my validation of their choices makes any difference or should make any difference. They were asking if I was pro-trans. I'm saying I don't know what it means to be pro-trans. Could someone define it? So you're asking me a lot of things about do they need my help? Well, tell me how they would possibly need my help.
Okay, so to be pro trans, if I'm going to give my definition, because I can't speak for everybody here, but right, you are in favor of these people um, in the sense that you can validate their identity and that they have an equal purpose and place in society, and that the government ought to do everything in its power to give them an equal opportunity under our laws. That is being pro trans.
Say that one more time. I got most of it. And I like the equal opportunity thing. I'm just not sure. Say it again because we must be disagreeing about something. I just didn't find it.
So we can validate that they do exist.
I agree they
We
exist.
can they we
Okay,
can
let's just
accept their identity and provide them an equal protection and
all right,
opportunity
stop.
under the law.
Tell me about that part. We can accept their identity.
Okay, so t- if I were to tell you that I was a blacksmith, right? There's no reason you would have to doubt that I was a blacksmith. If I was to tell you that I was a gay man, there's no reason you would have to doubt that I was a gay man. Right? So we're going
Yeah.
to accept people at face value unless we can prove that they are being dishonest about their position.
Well, no, we're going to compare what they're saying to facts we know about the world and
Well,
ideas
facts
we
we know
have
about the
about our
world, but
society.
facts we know about them. Right? This
Sure.
is the
I don't know
individual,
enough to
not the
say
world.
I don't know enough to comment against anything that you've claimed about yourself so far. You could be a gay blacksmith, and I would be like, sure.
Well, I might be, I might not be, but it's just the fact that not knowing me personally, if I'm to claim that I am this thing, do you have a reason to doubt it?
No,
Why
with that
why
jacket
else
on,
would I claim it?
I have a reason to agree with you with that jacket on. You could be a gay blacksmith. I'm thinking that's most likely, which arouses me
I'm
in
putting
ways
the
that I
hammer
can't
down.
even begin to describe. It's more about the
Oh no.
mustache and the goatee, though. If I'm being honest. Love monkey.
I feel like I'm being come on to. It makes me feel
Yeah,
very
a little bit. I am sexually harassing you. But anyway, continue on with the validate their identity. I kind of said that I'm cool with them. I mean, like if you're a gay blacksmith, I got no problem with those claims.
Right. So we just all gay blacksmiths, as long as they say they are gay blacksmiths, we just accept that truth claim. Like we're not going to invalidate what they say they are. There's no reason for us to do that, right? It's not like we'd be like, oh, well, you say you're a gay blacksmith, but in reality, I believe that you just really want to indoctrinate my young people with the idea of wearing assless chaps while pounding swords all day because you get off on that type of thing. That's
All right, well, hold on.
it's a
Check me
kink
on
or
this and
something.
see if I'm lined up right. I'm talking to you right now, and you said I'm a trans woman, William. I'd say, okay, you're a trans woman. But if you said, William, I'm a woman, I'd be like, I don't believe you. I'm just saying. That's the way. If you say you're a trans woman, I can say, okay, you're a person who's identifying as, uh, you have this thing where you think that you're this. Okay, I get what you're saying. But if you say I'm a woman and you need to tell me that I'm a woman, I'm gonna be like, no, I can't do that. That'd be lying. I can't do that.
We have
That'd be
a
pandering.
third tier there. Like
Sure.
if I came into the stream and I have a dress and a wig, and I say, "Well, Williams, I am a woman," and then I start identifying as Mary Monkey or something. I don't know. I made up something, but it doesn't matter what that is. Like if I were to do that and then do it consistently, would you still have a reason to doubt that?
I guess over time I'd stop arguing with you about it, but it doesn't mean that at any point I would truly believe that you were a woman. I would say my buddy Kev has he's got some confusion, and I'm going to be his buddy either way. But he's not going to make me call him Z or they because I'm never going to do that for him, no matter how much I love that crazy monkey.
And if I did it for 30 years, then you would hold that position?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to forget about those hairy balls, buddy. I'll
Well,
always
you
in the
might
back of my
not,
mind.
but other raccoons surely would. They'd be like, the
Not if they've
balls are
seen them.
gone. He's done hair removal and hormones.
There's still a few hairs.
This thing definitely looks like a female to me.
Will you still have that awesome mustache, or will that be gone too?
No, I can't. Once I fully transition, I can no longer have the mustache. Well,
Oh,
unless
I
I'm
don't even
like
know if I could be your friend anymore after that. If you got rid of the mustache for any reason, I'd probably have to say like it's been fun, Kev, but like that's a change that I can't get behind. I'm mainly here for your facial hair.
So let me take it to a different extreme. If you, William, let's say you were in a horrible accident involving two zebras and a coyote. Only one of the zebras survived, but it was horribly disfigured, and so were you. You have to have a full facial reconstruction surgery, and you've changed your name to Wallaby. Okay, and you've moved to Australia. So I have to identify you, the Australian citizen, with a new face as the man formerly known as William. Is now your name is Wallaby. But I go to Australia, and I get this distinct feeling that I'm still talking to William, even though you have a different face, and the zebras have received $1 million settlement payments because of everything you've done. I just cannot identify you as Mr. Wallaby. Um, should I just continue to call you William, um, or should I? How should I handle the situation?
It's only right that you do. I kind of have to understand that because that's how you know me. I'm sure even my own mother would continue to do that, and I know she loves me no matter what I choose to do. So if that's the way you saw me, the reality is that's who I am or was. Even if my face has changed, that's superficial. That's cosmetic. Who I am remains the same, and I appear and am perceived differently by different people. So I have to recognize that's your perception of me, and that's okay. I can tolerate that, even if it would be my wish that you call me Wallaby because that's
But
sexy.
you've gone through this 12-step program. You've lived in the halfway house. I mean, why do you need to take responsibility for mangling that poor innocent zebra? I mean, like
I don't.
sure
I
you've
didn't know.
taken
I'm not sure
responsibility.
exactly what caused me to attack the zebras. Yeah, you know how they are. But I mean,
Well, it
I
probably
have
had
some
something to
bigotry.
do with your face.
Right, I have bigotry, a little bigotry towards zebras, and they've never liked me either. So, that had to come to a head. I hate that it turned out the way that it did, but now I'm trying to start my life over. If you remember that, that's great. I couldn't ask you to forget something like that. That'd be dishonest. But in time, maybe you'll see me as Wallaby. If not, I'll just be the William, and that'll be just fine because it's worth having you call me William instead of Wallaby just to maintain the friendship. If you were abusive about it and kept rubbing it in about the fucking zebras, then I might disconnect from you. I might, but it would never would change how I saw myself. I don't need that validation, and I kind of look at people that do need that validation as being a little needy, a little weak.
Well, I'm sincerely glad that you're not Veckel. I mean, that's one thing I can say. If you were Veckel, we might not be having this conversation. I don't know. I mean, I think I identify with trans people in a certain way. Not that I myself identify as trans, but I understand the dissociative identity thing going on, and I could see myself like being attracted to a trans partner, right? So, I'm like, okay, so then there's that. Is that? Do you think that's just my personal bias? I'm a horny
Dude,
motherfucker,
why would you
and
be ashamed? Why would you be ashamed of being attracted to a trans person?
no, I wouldn't be
I mean,
ashamed of
they
it.
need.
I'm
Oh,
not.
okay. I thought you were saying that. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd never shame you for that. I think
But
that
I don't know why I
that
would.
may be the person you're supposed to be attracted to.
But then why would I ever discourage a person from taking that course?
I didn't say that you would.
But
Again, I don't. I haven't tried to stop anyone from doing anything except for trying to force me to approve of whatever they claim without evidence.
okay, but if you're taking, let's say, a political stance, and you said kind of specifically that you wouldn't want it to be taught to children, meaning you wouldn't want people to be educated on trans identity in schools, right?
I
So
think the
that's a
words I used
political.
were indoctrinated.
Okay, so you would be okay with education if you don't feel that it's indoctrination.
Yeah, but since I think that's hard to do with government schooling, that's why I've chosen to homeschool all my kids. I mean, I just have to because the government wants better workers, better slaves. They don't give a shit about anything else. I don't want my kids to feel like they're just machines that can only make money.
Do you
You
think
know,
there's
I want.
anything about the LGBTQ plus agenda that improves the economic system? Like, it
Okay,
seems
well,
like that
I'm going
that
to
creates a
stop you right
less
there.
suitable work environment.
No, I'm going to stop you right there because you just made this group thing again, and everybody does this. But when I grew up, it was just the LGB community. There was no other bits to it. This is more of a recent phenomenon. I have no problems with lesbians, gays, and bisexuals. Okay, I have no problems with what they're doing. I've always been fairly cool with it. You do what you want to do. I've always had gay friends. Um, but when you start adding in all these other things, now we're confusing. We're muddying the water. Okay, you can't group them all together and say you must feel the same way about all these groups. I don't.
I don't think it's saying that you need to feel the same way about all these groups, but that they are clearly saying we are at this section of society and we identify with one another. It's like it would be like saying, okay, um, all Protestants are Christian, but not all Christians are Protestants, right? Like it's kind of the same thing.
No, I get that. I get that. But like, I'm pretty supportive of gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. I'm very apathetic about the others
Why?
because I don't see a reason to feel like I need to really support that. And I no longer have any reason to support to go out of my way to support gays and lesbians and bisexuals since they're now widely accepted and kind of like the grandfather, the old guard of that group since we've added all the other things. They're kind of
But their marriages are
overshadowed
not
by
federally protected. They're not federally protected under the Constitution. That's a farce.
right, and none of that shit has any business being dealt with by the government. Not at all. Not straight. Not marriages have nothing to do with the government. Should never have.
Well, then what is marriage good for? Why we get married at all?
Well, I think that's a great question. I don't think you need anyone else's permission to live a life with somebody. And if you're just there with somebody because you have a legal contract, that seems like a pretty lame reason to be together. I don't want to be bound to anybody who can't walk away from me and that I can't walk away from when the time is right. And I don't need to wait a year and I don't need to ask permission or hire a lawyer. If someone wants to be with you, dude, they're going to be with you whether they've got a ring on their finger or not.
Well, I think we agree on that. Yeah, tax break. Good to see you, Share.
Yeah, no, if it's
I've
just
always
about
been
money,
against that institution, but I think
yeah,
if we're
but if it's
going
just
to have
about
the
money,
institution,
no, Share, look at Share's comment, tax break. If it's just about fucking money, then what does that say about the cause?
well, it says the institution is broken. But if we're going to have that institution, it should apply equally to any couple, and the
Sure,
government should not discriminate between one or the other.
but I think that again, we should be moving away from asking the government permission to who we can be with.
But that is the way that we structure things here. I mean, right now it's not permission about who we can be with, but what is, what course of action can I take to attain the
Power of
dream,
attorney.
right? It's this.
Power of attorney with each other gives you most of the privileges. You can actually contract provisions in that are superior than what you get to a marriage. When I used to work at a
So
warehouse, there was a bunch of gay people that worked with me, and they were always talking about ways that they bypassed the whole marriage deal and got insurance and all kind of stuff for each other. It was really cool how they worked the system, and I respect
that's
the fuck out of
important
that.
because what you're looking at there is protection under the law, right? So you are looking for whatever it is, protection under the law. That's your primary concern. It's not whether my relationship with this person or my fiscal responsibilities. It's, am I protected under the rule of law?
Hey, Kev, let me do
If
my
this
report.
thing
I'll be
goes
right back.
sideways, no,
I'm
don't do
late.
it.
I have to. I would like to keep my
I'm
job. I'll be
joking.
right back.
Yes, do your report. Yeah, getting your benefits if something happens. Do I get to collect my retirement and Social Security or not? And I think that's what people are mainly concerned with, and it's not an honest way to look at this type of relationship, right? So if we apply that, in the same way to, well, does it matter if you're a same-sex couple or a trans couple, or no, it doesn't. You're always looking for equal protection under the law, and that's already identified in the literature. It's there. I'm going to say thank you to Casey, Randy, Ox, Cher Wilkes, of course. William, this is all your fault. I blame you for being such a beautiful raccoon. I don't believe in marriage as an institution. I think it's corrupt, and I think it is a tool for the government to control people, right? And I think it's because there's all these other questions about where do my assets go? Who gets my children? This is all it's all under marriage. And if you're not married, then it seems that the whole system gets much more complicated, right? But I think, okay, so as far as marriage goes, as far as healthcare goes, I have the same vision for everybody. Like, equal, it's all the same one thing, right? And if people are supposed to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, they need to have these things. They need to be secure in their relationships, know that they're protected under the law. They have the health care and the housing and food security that they need. And then the government's doing its job. And then you can move on to other more nuanced issues from there. But if you don't start with those basic building blocks, you might just have, a recipe for disaster. You might just have a recipe for a shitty existence in a corrupt society that does not care about people. Doesn't care about people. Justice of the peace. I like that term. Justice of the peace. It's almost like, which peace? Dun, dun, dun.
Hi.
Rocky Raccoon returns. Okay, so
Okay, I'll accept 2 of those in one conversation. That was 1.
He's okay. Wait, so I had to, and I made it totally racist. So, do you love raccoons?
I do.
So, when you're
Have
faced
you
with,
ever paid attention to how raccoons behave?
well, they seem to behave a lot like people.
They do. They do. I love their digits. I love that they can manipulate things with their hands. They solve problems. They explore everything, and they're totally untrainable. You cannot tame a raccoon. You can only contain a raccoon.
Yeah, and then they'll scratch the shit out of you, right?
No, not necessarily, not intentionally. I mean, they do have sharp claws, and they do, they are rough creatures. But like, if you watch people with pet raccoons, I mean, they're loving. They're just, it's a prickly kind of love. It's a very touch and go. They can turn and get a little nippy at times, and I can relate to
Right.
all of that. So I've liked raccoons, and I've I guess I feel bad because I have to kill them sometimes because I raise animals and they love chickens, and so I hate when I have to kill one because I do love them. I just if I can trap them, I try to relocate them, but sometimes they outsmart all my traps because they're just that fucking clever.
Yeah, they are. Um, so when you're accused of such a thing, I mean, well, yeah, obviously, just let it roll off. But like, what's the first thing? Why do you think people make this correlation that?
Because it's an opportunity for them to make a big deal and show how virtuous they are by making a big deal out of something that's not a big deal. And I like to give them the opportunity to do that because then I know who they are.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I make a common stereotypical, like, statement about, say, the nature of monkeys, and then I start, well, okay, maybe you could logically infer that I'm trying to say something that is, like subcontext. Oh yeah, well, I'm saying a thing in a veiled way, right, against you, maybe.
No, wait, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. There's nothing accidental about, I mean, it's not that I don't know. I'm from South Carolina. I know what the term coon means when it's used inappropriately. And it's normally an internal slur from one black to another black if they're acting too uppity or acting like a white. And so, or being pro anything that's not whatever the group is for. But that has very little to do with this. But I know that it exists, and I don't mind that it exists. I want people to show me who they are by how they perceive what's going on. If they are honest, they should be waiting for me to say something that is a slur or something bad or denigrating. But if they're ready to jump just off a picture or the first correlation they make, they activate into virtue signal mode, then I know who they are. I know they're not interested in what I have to say. They're interested in the issue they can create out of my presence. So it helps me identify who people are. So it's another good bonus about having this as my totem animal.
Well, yeah, and it shows you how people perceive you. Like, Will has nothing better than to troll around the internet all day, trying to trigger woke liberals, with his avatar, right? I mean, that should be the way I logic my
You
interactions,
you
right?
could you could, but the whole point is I need to know how you're judging me. And if you're willing to do this, then I know that trying to be reasonable with you would be out of the question because you have a different motivation for why you're bringing this up. If I haven't said anything bad, done anything that is objectively wrong, and you're just creating an issue so that you can look like you're the righteous one, and and you're going to demonize me without asking a single question, then it's good that I know this about you so that I can avoid dealing with you in a serious way. I can treat you dismissively because there's no substance to what you are. So and
I
it's a
should make
good
that
tool.
totally clear. Like right now, all I'm doing is defending my wokeness. I want to make sure that my friends know that I am not a racist bigot. I don't support bigotry. I don't support transphobia. I also love animals, but I don't use a raccoon avatar because I'm totally woke. And this shit might offend people, man. And I don't want to offend people's sensibilities, because that could
I
make
can
me look
leave.
bad.
I can
That could
leave,
make me
bro.
look like a bad friend.
Dude, I could leave. I can go right now.
Well, you could, but I'm not asking you to. No.
Well, if you no, honestly, dude,
I'm
if
sorry.
you think that I have any ill intent in what I do, I would respect your decision to not platform me by having me on your show. I'm totally willing to bow out, but I don't apologize.
No, I wouldn't ask you to. No, I don't get that sense from you, and so I'm very skeptical in responding to anything. I find it more humorous at this point, just to kind of muse on the topic. But no, I disagree with you on some things. I'd like to change your mind, but I don't think that you seem to be a hateful individual or a spiteful individual.
Hey, Kev,
And so
if
until
I
I get
didn't
some
change
other
my
evidence,
mind, if I never changed my mind about any of the things that we disagree on, would we still be friends?
well, maybe I don't know. Wait, maybe I mean, but it would be
Well, if
far
you find
probably
an
less
issue that's
interesting.
pivotal,
It'd be less
if there's
interesting.
an issue that you find that pivotal, I want you to bring it to my attention. Don't let it sit.
Okay, well, okay, I would say the issue that I find pivotal right now is to validate trans experience. Like that's something I think that I should convince you of, but I don't know if I'm well equipped to. But
You would
to
have to.
validate the
You what would
experience
be
of
expected?
trans people.
What would be expected of me in order to validate them? Shouldn't they only have to convince themselves?
Well, no, I mean we can accept them just as well as I accept your experience as a Christian deconvert or anything else. It's just
I
your
said that I
experience,
would.
and
If they told me they were trans, like I told you, if it was you and you told me you were a trans woman, I would agree. Yes, you're a trans woman. If you said you were a woman, I would say I don't believe you.
now in the third step, though, if you were to say, "Well, can I tell this story to children?" Like if there's a way that this is socially acceptable that I can just explain my experience to children, it's not sexually explicit. There's nothing offensive about it. I'm just telling the thing that
I would
happened to me in my life.
I would say that's a good idea. You should do a website that's free so that kids can check it out if they're curious.
Okay. But should this not be something that is explained earlier on? Like with any basic, right? If we're allowed to tell the straight narrative, Romeo and Juliet and all of that good shit, Disney movies, oh, we're going to meet Prince Charming in the end. Well, you could, instead it could be, what's the old, Jeebus and Steve, or me and my friend who,
Romeo and
whatever
Tybalt.
the thing, yeah. I mean that should be just as acceptable
Shouldn't
in the
shouldn't that
narrative.
be up to you as a parent though? Shouldn't that be up to you when you think your kid is ready to take it seriously and when it's just going to be a joke to them?
No, I mean I don't think you get to choose that for your kid. Like they're going to take it seriously when they take it seriously. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the gay or the straight narrative or trans or anything else. Like you're just telling possible experiences. You're telling them about the way their story might
Right.
end.
So my kids have never had any real issues that they've brought to me about, hey, I think I'm a girl. And if they had, I would listen to them. But they never have. So there was really no reason to go into. And here's some other options for you. If you feel like at some point you might be a girl, now they're going, I wonder if I'm a girl. But then if I did pose that to them, I would probably have to include. Remember, you could never possibly know what it's like to actually be a girl because you're not a girl, but you might feel that you're a girl because you don't feel like a boy. But whatever you are is what you are. That's what I would say.
But if you eventually have a gender affirming surgery, you take the hormones, you have breast, a vagina, and now you wear a dress, then you are a girl by all standard definitions.
If that's your definition, sure. But again, it doesn't take me to go, you're a girl. If you think you're a girl, then fine. You don't need me to agree with you. I don't need anyone to agree with me that I'm not a raccoon. If they think I'm a talking raccoon, I'm fine with that. Because I know that I'm not a talking raccoon. Praise I Am thinks I'm a midget. I think that's cute, and I'm cool letting him believe that I'm a midget because
Let's
I'm
go with
not
that.
a midget.
Okay, wait. Being vertically challenged, being a midget, has a standard definition. We have a standard, as we say, if you're below X amount of feet and inches tall, then you have a vertical disability, right?
Yeah, but to Shaq, I'm a midget.
Well, yeah, relatively or whatever. But okay.
There you go.
So what legally qualifies one as being a woman or a man?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, so if we were
I
to
don't know that
say that,
legally. I don't know that legally has anything to do with it. And laws can be different in
well, it
different
does.
places.
We're talking about rule of law. I mean, essentially, that's all people want is the equal treatment under the law. That is
Well,
why people disagree here.
male and female is biological. That's determined by your biology, your chromosomes.
But that doesn't really differentiate man and woman and sexuality. I mean, you say
Right.
that if somebody has a certain particular set of chromosomes doesn't even match their presentation.
Well, I mean, being trans has nothing to do with sexuality. That just has to do with identification as to one
Well,
role
no,
or another.
trans doesn't. It's not necessarily linked to sexuality, but it is often very closely related.
I mean, if you say so, but should it be? Because I mean,
Well, yeah,
gay and lesbian and bisexual, these are sexualities. These aren't
because
genders.
there's a huge defining line between being a gay man and a trans presenting woman who is straight,
Yeah, there's a big difference.
right? Like,
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. There's a big difference because one is just mainly about their sexuality, and the other has to do with their identity, which is not set. It's a very new identity. It's not binary. It's some other idea of their identity, which is completely subjective to them, and it really doesn't matter to me what they do with that
but both
because
are
that's an
aligned
individual.
towards a similar sexual tendency.
I mean, I guess you'd have to talk to people who are trans, whether it's a sexuality issue, because it's my understanding that it's a self-identity issue to a
Well,
gender
no.
role.
Being trans is how you identify, but it's
No trans woman knows
interrelated.
what it. No trans woman knows what it's like to be a biological woman. That would be impossible for them to know that. They only have their subjective
Like,
experience where they believe that they are female.
it's just like saying no raccoon knows how to be a marmoset.
Right. That's true. They don't.
But you could imagine the experience of a marmoset.
But I'm not a raccoon.
It doesn't matter if you're a raccoon or
No, I can imagine their confusion. I can imagine what their life is like. I mean, I've had confusion in my life about things, but I don't know that any amount of validation that I could give them would more convince them of their own ideas. If they're legitimately, they have these ideas, and it doesn't matter what anyone says, that's what they are. And eventually over time, society will accept it. But if you try to force it down people's throats and dictate to them how they speak and how they're supposed to feel about something, you're going to get rebellion against that, because it's force by any measure begets rebellion and a resistance. So if you leave
Well, but
people alone to come to it,
all I'm forcing you to do in this instance is call me by a certain name, right? So if I
like what?
change my name tomorrow to Rebecca, right? My name is Rebecca. I'm the same person essentially, but tomorrow
I'd
I'll
call you
change my
Becky.
name to Rebecca.
I'd call you
Okay,
Becky.
yeah, you can call me Becky for short, but
All
as
right,
long as you respect just that change, then we'll be
sure, I could
good.
do Becky. I like you as a Becky. In fact, I think I'm going to
So
just go ahead and assume that for you from now on.
why would that
Look at
be
that
any
mustache.
different though?
Because you can change your name. I'm cool with you changing your name. But my perception of what you are is not going to legitimately change. Like in my mind, you'll always be Kevin, that formerly Kevin, now Becky.
Even if I show up with a fully like shaven upper lip, maybe I'm wearing some lipstick,
The mind
heels, a
that I
short
know,
skirt.
it's not about how you look, bro. The mind that I know is that of Kevin. The brain that I interact with is Kevin's brain. You've been Kevin this far, and Monkey. If you become Becky the ape, you'll still be Kevin the trusty ape, now Becky the ape. In my mind, there will be this whole, like, I'll recollect, who you have always been. Even though you've changed your name, you're still Kevin, now Becky. It's a hyphen in my mind. It never the Kevin never goes away. It's Kevin hyphen Becky with
But
parentheses,
would you
only
still
call
be
Becky.
just as attracted to me as you are today?
Without the mustache, fuck no. That mustache, I mean, that's bonerific. Yeah, get some crumbs in there. That's what daddy likes.
I can totally look like a porn star. I haven't hit the crumbs yet.
You're
These
like
things are
no, with the
delicious.
crumbs, you're gonna look like a fucking coke addict. Got all this fucking queso dust all over your mustache.
That's what I need. I need powdered donuts. Just
Look like an extra in Miami Vice. He's the drug dealer. He's the guy that tests it.
so personally, I don't know. I think I take a different stance, like with this futuristic approach to like, okay, people should just like be whatever they want to be. If you want to be like fucking, you know, gender neutral fucking spike monster, and you have the money to get all the reconstructive surgeries, have at it. Like I will call you Bob, and like it's fine. You like because people are already doing all this shit, like body mod and all this shit. Like it's only the next logical step that's what's going to happen. Like people could just
Kevin, what if I identified as the man that is correct in all issues?
the man is correct in all issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, then I would ask, what are your qualifications?
Oh, because I'm that guy. That's who I am. Whatever
Okay,
my opinions are, they're right because I'm identifying that way.
so you identify as never wrong.
No, as always right. Get my pronouns correct, please.
And so, what if some other person comes along and they're never wrong and you're always right?
Oh, well, they can identify that way.
Oh, that doesn't mean I necessarily have to believe them.
Right, because I'm not going to believe them.
Well,
Because
no,
I'm never
you
wrong.
definitely shouldn't believe them. Yeah.
Actually, they're never wrong, but I'm always right. So if there's an issue there, they were incorrect about how they identified. It doesn't affect me.
I heard somewhere a long time ago that there was a guy, he was never wrong. And somebody found him, some very bad things had happened to him, and people were like very unhappy with his opinions. But at the end of the day, they still enshrined his opinions in all the textbooks. They said he died as the man who was never wrong, even though they, strung him up and, did all kinds of, disgusting things with his corpse.
And we know where the hammer and the nails are. We can get you up in a couple of minutes.
What's your present view with your deconversion? Where are you going? Are you going deistic? Are you going? Do you have a
It's not a matter of going.
direction?
It's not a matter of going anymore. I just am.
Okay, but are you leaning towards a particular direction this way or that?
I mean, I'm theistic. I don't know that anyone has any information for me about that, much less a specific God I can relate it to. I only have my personal experiences, and that's just what I'm going to go with. No one can really tell me much. I've discovered no one knows shit. And I don't either.
There must be something out there to make this all kind of come together.
Stands to reason.
Would you be like very disappointed if there was nothing and it was all just random chance?
I don't think I would ever know about it.
Oh yeah, that's a good position to take. How could you? I mean,
by the time I figured it out, it'd be too late. And even if I did figure it out, why would that change anything?
what do you make of this whole scenario? Is this just a drop in the bucket? I mean, have you learned anything thus far from being called a bigot and a racist and all of these things?
It's not new to be called these things. I mean, anytime I have an enemy, they always try to find some sort of statement that will elicit an emotional response. So that's all that is. I attribute that to the same sort of motivation that dogs have when they bark. They're making a lot of noise, but they're not saying anything.
Why would you call people your enemies? Like what justifies?
No, they identify themselves as such. I don't have any enemies directly. They let me know that I am their enemy.
They're opposed to your view, but I haven't heard them say they're opposed.
That would be
to
opposition.
You. Well,
no, when you try to silence me and I haven't said anything except for asking a question, and you slander the shit out of me and say a lot of things that are not true, and you can't evidence, then I mean, you're showing me that you're adversarial to me. So, I mean, I'm not sure how anyone is expected to behave when confronted with an adversary. And
yeah,
I've been pretty
the power
tolerant
to merely get you booted out of a conversation without ever having to address anything you're actually saying, right? And they utilize that power, yeah.
Well, I never attacked anyone in that room. You can watch the video over and over. I didn't attack a single person. And if you can show me where I did, I'm happy to review it and apologize. But I'm pretty sure I was very tolerant of everyone making me out to be a monster the entire stream.
Well, no, but you disagreed at some point. You're not allowed to disagree with people in the community, whatever community.
Right, I found that out. Right, the hive mind disagreed with my approach to it.
Do you identify what community do you think that was being spoken of there, or do you identify a community as such that, or is that just like total bullshit right there?
Well, I think it was presented as the ally community, the
trans
good ally, the pandering community, the let's find an issue that we can rally around and feel like we have a purpose community.
Well, okay, but say allied with trans rights in the U.S. That is a particular agenda. I can get behind it. You don't, right? But
Sure. Well, I haven't found a reason yet to get behind it. If someone was convincing about it instead of just demanding and trying to shame me or guilt me for not knowing more or not caring more, all that does is make me go, well, fine, fuck you. I don't care that this is your attitude. I'm not going to even listen to what you have to say. You
do you
either give
think?
me an argument that I can get behind, logical argument, or just leave me alone about it. It's when you try to
Well,
force me
in
to do something or
regards
say
to the
something.
group that you're in, though,
Okay.
like, do you feel like that's deflecting from the point that you're talking to a skeptical audience, an audience of atheists, right? Primarily. And the other thing is a secondary issue. And you're like, well, I don't have to align with this particular group to still be having this conversation over here with this group of people, right? Because we're actually talking about this subject.
I don't
And you
belong to a
just,
group or a community, dude. I'm a visitor in any group or community. I don't belong to any of them.
but do you know your audience? Like right now, if you take
No, I
any,
don't even. I'm not
group of
even looking
people
at
in the
the side
chat,
chat.
we got Ox,
Oh,
Oz, or KCA Randy.
yeah.
Shares kind of outside of the, but you know who these people are. You know what they're about, right?
Well, Ox and I have gone back a good ways, and I've talked to Randy a couple times just briefly in the side chat. But yeah, I'm not really concerned with the audience, and as much as I like these people, I don't need to. I don't need to ask them for validation for my beliefs, and I don't need to shape my beliefs around how they're going to perceive me. If they find out something about me they don't like, then I welcome them to walk away from it. I would do the same.
And so you don't have an expectation. You don't have an expectation of being accepted merely because you're a deconvert, right?
No, I don't need to be accepted.
Not sure what you mean by this right here, but yes, bring traffic to my channel. I don't know what you're talking about.
Having me on is going to bring a little hate to your channel, as long as you know that.
Oh, I'm used to it. I mean, most people are very nice, but every once in a while, well, most of the time, I just allow myself to be. I am an easy target for anybody who wants to banter about the nature of the Pokemon franchise or why
You just made me
racism
think of
exists
something.
in the universe.
You just gave me a clue as to something. I think the reason that community doesn't like me is because they haven't found a way to guilt me or shame me into agreeing with everything blindly. I think that's why I'm such a thorn, because I'm not conforming, and I don't seem to care about.
Well,
I don't have the need to conform.
that's the problem, William, is that once you start to question everything, you have to believe anything that skeptics tell you. Because skeptics have already questioned everything. Therefore, all the legwork has been done for you, and you don't have to think for yourself anymore. Right? You can just trust the experts.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm an expert. I know like almost everything. So you can just trust everything I say, take it at face
If you
value.
were telling
Like
me, if
that.
you were giving facial hair advice, I'd be like, I am listening, brother. I can see the results. You are rocking it. But if you're trying to tell me about my gender choices, I'm like, nah, I don't think that you can speak for me on that.
Well, see, I think the real problem is that you think that you're a raccoon, but William, in reality, you are a trans black woman, and you just don't know it.
Well,
Can I get that?
if I'm if I'm coddled a little bit and maybe massaged into thinking that way, perhaps I
Well,
would
no.
agree with you.
The very first step is we have to do pigmentation treatments. We have to alter your pigmentation because I know you're not dark enough yet. Okay, so we're gonna alter your pigmentation. We're gonna We're gonna do some hair transplants. Okay.
Geez, slow
Hormones.
down. Let me think about it first.
No, you're not. You're not
I
down with
don't
that.
know that I don't like being pressured into surgeries that I may not need. Can I just identify this way and not have to change anything?
Well, yeah, but you'd be a lot more attractive to me if we got you those hair transplants and a pair of tits. Pair of tits are
Okay,
very
but now
important.
now now you're assuming that I need to be attractive to someone else.
Well, I thought you were here for a reason, William.
I smell like garbage
What
juice.
is your
Okay.
purpose here?
I regularly am dumpster diving and smell like hot garbage. Do you really think I care about how I'm perceived visually? No one's gonna get close enough to find out.
Cat, trigger warning, Cat. William is very transphobic, okay? I just need you to know. I need to. Boop, boop, red flags. Help me. Help me. I'm joking.
You'll play hell convincing
William
Cat of any of that.
William does not want to grow tits and get a gender affirmation and sex reassignment and race reassignment. Race reassignment, is that a thing?
That seems like it would
Um,
interfere with my motivation to have a dad bod.
oh yeah. See, if you have a dad bod, that's definitely a deal breaker.
Well, I'm trans dad bod. I'm working on it. That's the goal is to eventually end up having the dad bod of your dreams.
I feel like that's the Peter Pan bod, like the actual Peter Pan bod. Like I want to be like 6 inches shorter and 110 pounds. Just
I actually would like to look like Mario or Luigi, one or the other, depending on how tall I am and how thin I am. Either one's fine, but I need the Italian mustache. That's what
see, yeah. I don't know. These things, they're irritating though. You have to. I'm told I should get wax, or you have to get something, some paraffin or something to put in there.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I can
man,
grow a
that's a
mustache.
pain
I
in the
just
ass.
hate when I grow it because it irritates me and gets in my mouth and it's just unruly. So I shave my mustache off for convenience and then wish that I had one. But honestly,
Yeah.
you're not going to get much material out of me. I'm not really the controversy they're making me. I don't really have a whole lot to say about much that doesn't involve me.
Well, I've already succeeded in that. I mean, well, I didn't have to do anything really. I was watching somebody else's stream, and I said, "Wow, this is all very controversial." Except not. And yeah, no, I kind of read that there was some shenanigans going on, some I don't know, playing on words and people getting very very upset over a whole lot of nothing, and I tend to enjoy that, rather than like the. I mean, I think there are real issues at play, and I mean, politically speaking, I don't think. As long as you're not, for legislating against people's rights to identify and act as they want, and I don't know, the education issue is a little bit of a more nuanced thing. What should we teach children? But like, you're not against trans people, right? And so
No,
that's
I'm
not
apathetic.
really an
I'm
issue.
I'm I'm very apathetic about it. It's not my issue. I don't know
Well,
enough
John
about it, and
John
I haven't.
Lennon said apathy isn't it, man.
No,
I
I
don't know
get
what he
John
was
Lennon
talking
has his own
about. Confused
opinions.
it.
Yeah,
Well, he
I'm
had his
not a
own
big Beatles
opinions, but
fan.
then somebody shot him in the head.
Right, right. And that's not what I want for myself, but I'm gonna have my own opinions just the same. I just don't know why I need to agree with everything that they agree with. I mean, I'm cool. You exist. That's fine. Why should you be my priority? Because you're just not my priority. I have my own life. I'm not really my own issues. I'm not really concerned about what you choose to wear or how you choose to identify. Just don't ask me to play pretend with you because I'm not going to do it. I mean, if you present a certain way and I respect you because you've earned my respect, like Kat, for instance. If Kat identifies as a female, I'll be like, I'll call you she. I'll flirt with you. We'll get nasty sometime. But that's because like I respect you. I'll call you what you want because you've earned my respect. And the reason I respect Kat is because Kat doesn't expect me to uh to take her situation and make this a big deal out of it. So I respect that shit.
So you're kind of the rugged individualist, right? Like, as long as you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, I'll call you fucking,
Yeah, if
Barbara
you're not
or
asking for
whatever.
sympathy, if you're not constantly begging for sympathy and wanting me to coddle you about your difficult life, because everybody's got a difficult life. That difficulty doesn't look at your race or your gender it's just life. So if you can just struggle through that shit and carve out who you are and disregard what other people think about you, yeah, I got all kind of respect. But if you're demanding that other people treat you a certain way when you could just as easily ignore the fuckers, then I mean I don't know what to do with you. If you just want to complain, I got no time for that shit. You have to have a valid complaint for me to hear it. If they're really hunting trans people down and slaying them in the streets, that's fucked up. I would give a shit about that, but I'd have to see it, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there are definitely people being hunted and slain in the streets. I mean, it's a real thing.
Well, I don't know.
But
I
yeah,
got
I mean,
accused of harming people just by, I guess, being in that room and um, not, I guess, changing my avatar in a way that they thought was unappealing. I got accused of actually harming people and doing damage. Yet I haven't seen anyone show me where I damaged anyone.
okay. So on the flip side of that, do you think we should just be more charitable to people in general, or no? Like, is the
Well, I mean,
cynicism going to work for
hold on,
society, or
treated in kind. If you notice, I got attacked through that whole stream. I did not retaliate in kind. I could have, but I don't mind them thinking what they want to think. I don't need them to change their minds about me. That's what I'm saying. The whole thing, that group think, is this validation need, this need for acceptance and willing to say anything and pander to anyone to appear like you're virtuous. But it's more virtue, or to recognize the virtue of people that like don't ask for your sympathy, that quietly suffer with life, that are stoic rather than complaining.
but if you do have an aim to help those people, even if they are complaining, to try to alleviate their suffering, then you would still be virtuous. You just don't have to signal it to other people, right? Like,
Right, exactly. Support them, be there for them, listen to their problems, give them advice if they want it, or whatever you can do for them. But don't make a big deal so that you can get pats on the back for being a good ally. That's sad. That's
that is
self-serving
what it seems
bullshit.
like. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
You
I
want to
want to
change my
be
mind?
acknowledged.
Talk to me in a private stream and change my mind with like reasoning. But don't try to embarrass me in front of like everyone in a group and single me out and expect me to change my mind. You're just gonna push me in the other direction and think, wow, this whole group is a bunch of assholes.
And they might be. So, without putting too much more effort into that, because I think we've like fairly exhausted that whole point, and you know, I agree with you, man. Like the mentality is fucked, and like it's like you're never going to change it. Yeah, you're not going to change bad behavior by behaving badly, and that's what kind of happened there, right? And so it seems like you're comfortable with it. Um, Other
Well, I
people
have
are
to
not
be. It's
so
how I
comfortable with
feel.
it.
Right. That's their affair. That's their affair. They're welcome to treat me however they like.
Hello, Jody. So, what does this mean for you? What will you do next? Will you write a book? You would do a TED talk? Do you have public speaking engagements forthcoming?
Oh no, I'm
Rumble,
gonna
all those
I'm
platforms.
I'm starting a YouTube channel called Ask a Racist Coon, and I'll identify as a black lesbian since you've brought it to my attention. And we'll just see what happens. I don't know. What do you think? Good idea? I'll listen to Pocket Locker complain about me, and maybe Oz can come in and condescend to me a little bit. Oh, she's stalking her
You could
boyfriend again.
do.
Good Lord.
You know what? I
Here
could
I
see
am.
you and Oz doing a battle rap. That would be epic.
Oh, except that I have no skill whatsoever in that. But I'd be happy to sit down and have a discussion with Oz. But I'm going to call him out when he virtue signals.
Yeah.
How you doing tonight, Jody?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm buzzing, and I have 2 more hours till I have to go to bed. I'm supposed to stay awake. So.
Right. Yeah, I should be going to bed, but I had a 3-hour nap. So you guys been on
Got
for a
Hillary's
while?
emails, Atheist Mo. I've been at it for an hour and a half this time, but I've been covering this for a while. It's been a matter of controversy amongst everybody. Like the whole community is up in arms about William's transphobic racism. So I
What's
just
that
wanted to
mean?
make sure we had to. Oh, there he
What's a
goes again.
transphobic?
Raccoons are transphobic racists. So yeah, we just had to check that one out. Yeah. Well, because there are people, they don't like when people disagree with them. They don't like when people have particular like audio avatars, demeaning people because it's like it has, this doesn't have anything to do with anything. But I can just put whatever I want on my YouTube channel and open rooms and stuff, and nobody cares, right? But then every once in a while you get into a group of people where everybody cares and they want to nitpick every fucking thing you just did
I
and
hate
said,
that.
and that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, like you're walking on thin ice. You're afraid to be,
Yeah,
you're afraid that you're going to offend somebody. I mean, there's no
not just
fun
that
in
you're
that.
going to offend somebody, but that people will attack your character because of an opinion that you hold,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I agree.
But at the same time, like, I do understand that hating minorities is an opinion that some people hold, and that's called racism. Like, but
Right.
that's a particular bias, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not necessarily like the same bias we're talking about here. So
Right.
William is skeptical towards particular claims,
Oh.
and I don't think that he's like sufficiently informed about those claims. By what he said to me, but that doesn't really matter, right? Because it's not even the accusation being made. The
Right.
accusation that he's just outright bigoted.
Right. Yeah, I think it's the climate we're in. You know what I mean? Like people want to magnify the mole into a mountain. I mean, why? Because I feel like it just makes things worse.
Well, we all want to educate other people, like especially if we feel they're not informed. We need to be the ones who inform them, right? Like
Right.
you don't know what you're missing if you don't have this bit of information, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if you're not, if you don't believe the same thing I believe, then you're not on board with my agenda, and you must be an adversary of mine.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? I mean, and it's like it's not the same as like, okay, like I didn't, smell those bodies burning over yonder.
Right.
I could have called the Gestapo, but I knew they were in on it, so I just kind
Yeah.
of just sat at home and I waited for the Americans to come. But I mean, it's kind of in that neighborhood, no, sometimes. I mean, well, big love, William.
Yeah, I think the government wants to divide us to where we question a fucking animal that before racism, it was a cone. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It was just an animal. And they want to make it
Oh,
a
the
symbol
raccoon,
of
yes.
racism.
Right.
Why?
Well, I think that was more of a social phenomenon. I don't think the government really has a whole lot to do with that. But now it seems that some people think that should be regulated by like society as a whole. Where, well, now because people used to say that, well, now raccoons are just forever and always a symbol of racism. And anytime white people reference raccoons, they must be talking racist shit, right?
Well, they say the same thing about the Confederate flag in the South. Like that flag actually has a positive message, but because it's also associated with skinheads, people automatically think that that flag is wicked and evil.
What is the positive message behind the Confederate flag, though?
I can't remember, but I know that it's positive.
Okay.
You'd have to look it up.
I mean,
I'm guessing it has to do with states' rights. That the state gets to be their own governing power. Because, like in the war from the North and the South, the Confederate flag was like the symbol of the war. The North was trying to fight the South, right, for slavery, but it really wasn't about slavery. I didn't realize that. But anyway, I think we all have these weird, like, ignorant ideas about what's what. What the heck's
yeah.
that
Well, I
all
think
about?
in the case.
What the hell's going
Oh
on?
yeah. No, people are all up in arms, man. It's crazy. But there is something about so the Confederate, flag and what it meant with those states' rights. I mean, was entirely founded upon the idea that they could own people, right? And so they had a confederation of states that were pro-slavery, and they said, "You're infringing on our rights, telling us we can't have slaves."
Yeah, I guess I'm talking pre-war.
Right.
I'm talking pre-war with that flag.
Using it after the first battle.
Yeah, you can't look at it after the battle. You got to look at it before the battle. So it got turned into a negative symbol, just like the swastika. The swastika was a positive thing, and then you got Hitler, turned it into something else.
Well, yeah, and then Nazis weren't anti-Buddhist either, right? So that's like kind of an anomaly. But I mean,
Yeah.
As far as what they appropriated the swastika for, I mean, it still ended up, being remembered for something very different.
Right. So does that mean that if I have a swastika bumper sticker, does that mean I'm like skinhead?
Well, in the U.S., I mean, probably. I mean, there's not a whole lot of. I mean, as far as I know, I don't think there's a lot of. Most Buddhists aren't using that symbol. Like it's pretty rare these days, although you do still see it in some of the older architecture, right? But they don't reproduce it anymore.
Yeah, because it's a Jewish symbol,
because
isn't
of that
it?
fact.
Is it Jewish?
No, it comes from Buddhist culture.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. Yeah.
I feel like it's got Jewish origins. And it's a positive thing. It's not, there's nothing negative about it.
Okay. Sanskrit, I guess, is where it comes. It's from Sanskrit, predominant in various Eurasian as well as African and American cultures.
Okay. I mean, why did Hitler choose
And it means good
that?
fortune
Why
or
did-
well-being. Yeah.
Oh. So why did Hitler choose that symbol of all symbols he could have chose?
I think it was an issue of asymmetry in that sense. And he also had a particular belief about the origins of German heritage, which weren't entirely accurate. Good night, Mo. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so he had his own theories about the origins of the German people and evolution, and he was a eugenicist, famously. So
Yeah.
I mean, so that plays a lot into it. So, like, Hitler came up with the idea that somehow with the Asian races and the white races were interrelated. That comes from Hitler's ideas of eugenics and others of the time, but it's a racist idea, right? They're trying to dissociate from the idea that humans came from Africa or the Middle East, where we know the bedrock of civilization lies, to say, oh,
Right.
no, it couldn't have happened that way because that's not Eurocentric.
Yeah, I want to say that swastika was altered from its original look. It's almost like he stole the symbol but made it his own. Like changed it up just a little bit. I can't remember though. It's been a long time since I looked at that.
It's showing there. You can see one of the original representations. So yeah, the Nazis cock it on its side and enshrine it in a circle, but traditionally it would be something more like this. What we're seeing here is kind of, again, this comes from like this is Sanskrit, yeah. Swasti, which is composed of su, good, well, and asti is it is or there is. So occurring frequently in the Vedas as well as in classical literature, meaning health, luck, success, and prosperity, and commonly used as a greeting.
So click on
So
the
you would say
Holocaust
this.
Memorial Museum.
A swastika is an ancient symbol that was in use in many different cultures for at least 5,000 years before Adolf Hitler made it the centerpiece of the Nazi flag. It's present day used by certain extremist groups promotes hate. The origins of the swastika. The word swastika comes from the Sanskrit svastika, which means good fortune or well-being. The motif, a hooked cross, appears to have been first used in Eurasia as early as 7,000 years ago, perhaps representing the movement of the sun through the sky. To this day, it is a sacred symbol in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Odinism. It is a common sight on temples or houses in India or Indonesia. Swastikas also have an ancient history in Europe, appearing on artifacts from pre-Christian European cultures.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not, I mean, so, and when we say like, well, this has been like tainted, well, no, they still use it. So it's not completely tainted because, right, there are like whole groups that still just, they kind of ignore the fact that this thing was appropriated by Nazis and white supremacists for all these years. They're just like, yeah, whatever, we still think of it this way.
Okay.
Its discovery and meanings in modern Europe. The symbol experienced a resurgence in the 19th century as a result of growing European interest in the ancient civilizations of the Near East and India. During his extensive excavations, the German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann discovered the hooked cross on the site of ancient Troy. He connected it with similar shapes found on pottery in Germany and speculated that it was a significant religious symbol of our remote ancestors. Other European scholars and thinkers linked the symbol to a shared Aryan culture that spanned Europe and Asia. So, right, this is biased Nazi propaganda right here, right? They don't actually have evidence for this. It's speculation, but maybe. In the beginning of the 20th century, the swastika was widely used in Europe. It had numerous meanings, the most common being a symbol of good luck and auspiciousness. And then you have the appropriation of the swastika as a Nazi symbol. Which this is occurring in like 1920s. So you're talking what? I mean, according to this, what did it say? Yeah, like 100 years before, somewhere abouts. It was kind of rediscovered and repopularized in Europe. And it's about the time that the eugenics movement is popularizing. So that timeline adds up.
I assume that he picked that swastika because it belonged to Jewish people. So he was basically mocking the Jewish people with the symbol that belonged to them.
No, it was not exclusively Jewish at all. I mean, from what we can tell,
Okay.
I mean, no, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Odinism. I think it comes. They're drawing from the Norse mythology, where they found it in the Norse mythos, is where they said, okay, this is related to the Germanic people. Is how they reappropriated it. But Hitler himself was a Catholic, I believe. Greetings,
What's
Simon.
Jainism?
Thank you for the thumbs up. So Jainism is another kind of Mideastern culture they are entirely the main principle in this religion is not to harm anything if you can avoid it. So they will go so far as to veil their faces to avoid eating bugs accidentally, or they carry brooms so they can sweep bugs away off the ground when they're walking.
Oh my
so they
Lord!
won't accidentally step on them.
That's
So it's fully pacifist. Well, I mean, it seems like a good way to go about life, though. Like if you
really
want to reduce any type of harm or destruction that you're doing as a person, then
within a reasonable way, though. Like
what's unreasonable about it?
It's unreasonable to take a broom wherever you go and sweep the bugs away from your feet. That's unreasonable.
What harm
Don't
would
you
it
think?
do to you?
It's like a lot of excess work that's unnecessary.
Well, it could actually strengthen you if you think about it. Like, yeah, you're doing unnecessary work, but that's just like a strength training exercise, right?
Well, maybe if you're going to do it for a week, but what if you actually live the lifestyle?
Well, maybe I'll feel better at the end of the day because I know that I harmed as few living creatures as possible.
Yeah, but creatures are meant to live and die. Like that's a natural.
But I'm not meant to kill them.
No, that's a natural cyclical process. It has to happen.
But if I can avoid killing something, shouldn't I?
If you intentionally try to kill something, that's different than you accidentally stepped on a bug.
Okay, but if I was driving down the road and a pedestrian walked out in my way, and I could have hit the brakes, but it was just too inconvenient for me, so I just mowed them down and kept going.
So nobody in their right mind would think I'm gonna hit a pedestrian if I feel like it. You know, it's not like that.
Well, then why would you think you should just step on a bug because you feel like it? Because it's
So
too
with a
inconvenient
bug,
for you to.
but a bug is meant to be fed to another creature. So maybe you step on the bug and along comes a robin and eats that bug.
What makes it so that the bug is meant to be fed to another creature? Where do you get that
Because
idea?
it's below man. Anything below man is meant to be food.
Okay, so this comes from the Bible.
Well, it's pretty common sense too. I mean, that's how our ancestors lived. They ate food from the natural resources that were in front of them. That's how I
Well,
grew
yeah,
up.
they just
I
ate what
grew up
was
that
available
way.
to them, but that doesn't mean that that's the most intelligent way to look at
So,
such
like,
a thing. Because
say I'm raising chickens for eggs, or chickens to slaughter for the freezer. If a chicken eats, say, 1,000 bugs a day, should I feel bad for those bugs that my chickens ate, and the eggs that I'm making for breakfast in the morning, or the chicken I make into fried chicken? Should I feel bad for those bugs? I mean, you realize how ludicrous this sounds, right? It's about as ludicrous as it can get.
well, yeah, but if there's some way, like it doesn't matter what
Why?
that way is, like,
Bugs are meant to be eaten.
so why don't humans just eat bugs then?
They do.
So should we be eating bugs as opposed
Like
to chickens?
lobster. Lobster is a friggin' bottom feeder. They used to feed it to prison people in prisons, because it
Well,
was
yeah,
considered like nasty food that nobody else wanted. But yet we eat lobster. Like, it's in your fine cuisine. Your lobster is like top of the line now.
yeah, lobster's more of a delicacy now. Yeah, I mean, or a
Yeah, but it
shrimp
never used to
would be
be.
another example. Yeah,
Yeah. But my point
shrimp.
is that I mean, you would literally have to stop eating most of the food you eat if you didn't eat those animals. And it would actually go against your health.
No, you don't think? Wait. So I think the science suggests that we should be eating more vegetables and less animal products.
Less or no. Because there are people that think you can't kill a bug and you can't kill an animal and eat any meat at all.
Well, right, but that's a philosophical principle. So it has nothing to do with health necessarily, right? You'd say, oh, because I can survive without killing this thing, that's what I ought to do. Whereas, the other side of that is, well, I can survive by doing just the bare minimum of
Well,
this
I
thing,
look at
but
it like
that's what I ought to do.
you harvest a carrot from the ground, you harvest a bird, a deer, you harvest them. God gave us those animals just like He gave us the fucking carrot. Why can't we have all of it? Because that's exactly what the Bible says. We're supposed to have all of it.
But what if we don't believe in what the Bible says?
Well, I mean, you're entitled to that belief, but to me, it's ludicrous. And for me, from my mind, thinking about what they're doing, it's completely ludicrous. They are getting nowhere. They're not proving anything. I can drive down the road and have like 50 bugs splattered all over my windshield. Does that mean my vehicle needs to stay in the driveway? What do? Hitchhike or get a taxi so I don't kill any bugs? Or maybe I don't own a vehicle. I don't fucking know. It's just ludicrous.
Well, yeah, if it was a Sabbath, you were totally in the wrong, right? Because you don't, like, you need the button that inhibits the button pressing in order to operate this. So okay, but so from okay, you have the biblical worldview, and then you're like, okay, but this is just me operating like, okay, within these parameters, it says I don't want to hurt other
Right.
things, right? If we
But
just go
you
with
have to
that,
define hurt. Are you talking about
well,
living, breathing beings like people?
wait. Bugs live and breathe. They just don't live and breathe like people. But I
Yeah,
mean,
but anything below
like say
man.
your dog. Like why wouldn't you eat your dog? Because they're below man, right?
I'm,
Why don't you eat
I'm
dogs?
saying in a reasonable way, why would you consider eating a pet? You just wouldn't do that.
Well, I might. What if I kept bugs as pets? Then I'd still be considering the same question.
Well, if you want to keep bugs for pets, you can. I think it's unreasonable to go out into the world and not expect to step on something and kill it, or to drive down the highway and kill it. There's like roadkill
Well,
all over the place where I live.
no,
I
it's
mean,
not to
people
say
are
there's
always
never
hitting
going
it.
to happen, but we can take steps to avoid it happening more
But
often than
animals
not.
just jump out in front of you.
Yeah, but I mean, we have headlights. We can, cruise the speed limit. Maybe slow down when we
You can
know
be
deers
going the
might be.
speed limit. I just totaled my van. I hit a dog. It was about a 70-pound beagle. She was like 17 years old. And she totaled the underside of my van. She walked right out in front of me, and she rolled around underneath my van and like totally fucking totaled my van. It was, yeah, they paid full price for it. A dog. I didn't even get to step on the brake. I did not want to harm that dog. But I swear to God, that dog wanted to die.
So, do you think if your van would have been equipped with a sufficiently large broom
A what?
in the front, a
What?
broom like a sweeper, like
You're
a
being
street
foolish
sweeper,
right
like
now.
no, wait, no, it's possible. I mean, engineers can do it. They could
Why?
have a broom attached to the front of your van that sweeps dogs
Good
in the
God.
roadway. Why
Good
wouldn't
God.
you do that?
That's nuts. That's
It only
ludicrous.
costs you like $5.99 more on the purchase price.
Yeah. That's nuts. I used to
Why?
get
I know you don't want to hit the dog.
so I used to get in heated debates with this one guy on Facebook, and he was a pure vegan. Couldn't eat the eggs that his chicken laid. He he would, go out into the woods and forage for, and I don't find anything wrong with doing that at all. But he wanted to eat what nature gave him. And he couldn't kill anything that was living. And anyway, him and I would just go around and around because he didn't think it was right that I thought it was okay to eat meat.
I could see that being a disagreement if you're full vegan. I'm not fully vegan, but I do agree with minimizing harm, and so that's like a moral conflict. Like I would rather not eat meat if I can avoid it, but it seems like it's almost unavoidable. So it's like, okay, but if I can
I would eat
somehow,
meat. I would eat meat all the time and just skip vegetables. I mean, I love vegetables. I would rather eat meat if I had my choice. And they actually found that the human brain was bigger in people that ate meat versus the people that, yeah, if you look it up, that's when they've done like archaeological digs, and you can see where they've had a more prosperous civilization because they ate meat.
Well, yeah, I think you're talking about the adaptation to being
And their
omnivorous, right,
brains
as
were
opposed
bigger.
to more
Yeah.
herbivorous
Their
ancestors,
brains were
herbivores.
bigger because
Right, right. Well,
your body is protein. Why wouldn't you feed your body protein? You know what I
but you
mean?
also didn't have, yeah, you didn't have sufficient sources of protein. Like, so now it's easier to obtain that protein through other sources.
How?
So we didn't have that ability. Well, because we can farm alternative sources. I mean, you have spinach and soy and mushrooms and all these other things that we've
Yeah, I'm not a
now
fan of all that.
industrialized the resource for.
Without the meat flavor, I'm just not impressed. I've tried it. I'm not impressed. It's actually nasty. I gotta have
So
meat
if we could
flavor.
supplement the meat flavor, do you think you would switch to a vegetable-based protein diet?
Hell no. I've tried that too. It was terrible.
And you don't think we can improve that?
No, I think it's perfect. Short of not having the flesh anymore. If we don't have flesh, then we don't need to worry about feeding the world.
And you're not concerned about the well-being of those animals or the suffering of
No,
those
those
animals?
animals were put here for food. And they know that. They know they are. That's why they run from us.
Well, why
They've
would they
always,
run if they know that their purpose is to be food when they just come to serve their
because they
purpose?
are prey and we are the predator. That's why we are the hunter and they are the hunted. I mean, would you want an elephant hunting you down? Or would you want a cougar
No.
or a fucking bear? Why would you want that? I mean, anybody with a brain knows that you don't want bears hunting you, right?
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
They'll rip your brain right out of your skull. So it's the other way around. God made it that way. He wants us to have dominion, which means that we care for the animals. We give them a good life, and they have one bad day when they expire. They would have expired, but we made sure as a farmer that you take care of that animal. You give it what it needs. You make it comfortable. You give it bedding. You change the bedding. You treat it like a pet. And then when it comes time to harvest that animal has one bad moment and it doesn't remember it. And it becomes sustenance for whoever eats it. And then the rest of it goes back to the earth. This is the way I was taught. Actually, I taught myself that. I think it's important the animals go back to the earth and that earth gets turned around and it becomes vegetables to feed the animals, and then the animals feed you, and it's a full cycle. That is actually how God intended for us to live. But we've gotten so far away from it, we don't remember it. Like I was raising my own worms. I was raising my own worms to put the worm castings back into the soil so that my plants were getting good microbes and the fruit was getting much bigger and much better tasting. I mean, so much better tasting. Just because I was feeding the soil, I fed the vegetables. And then the stalk where the tomato plant grows, that gets chopped up and gets put back into the earth. It all becomes full circle.
Right. Yes, it's circular. Yes, exactly. God, man, animal, plants, back to animal, man, God.
Right.
Wait.
You're right.
That's,
Yeah. And you can go both directions. So it's not just animals, plants, and or I'm sorry, man, plants, or man, animals, and plants. You know, then you got your insects and you got your microbes. So if the soil isn't fed, then those microbes aren't going to feed what's up above that, and then so on. So we've actually been starving for things that come from the earth because we don't feed our soil. We feed the plants fertilizers, and they're mostly synthetic, and there isn't an uptake because plants aren't meant to eat synthetic fertilizer. They're supposed to eat microbes from the insects, from the earthworms, from the fungi in the ground. All of that works together. But we've gotten so far away from that, we don't even know what we don't know. Like, we are completely ignorant to the point where we're worried about stepping on a fucking bug. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Religions, like any other, they've evolved over like thousands of years. This
It's pure
isn't some new
stupidity.
thing. This isn't like some wokeness. Like
It's
this has been
pure
around.
stupidity. That is pure stupidity. I'm sorry. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the idea here is merely to reduce harm. Like that's all they're striving to do in their belief
Maybe
structure.
it was a superstitious thing that turned into a religion. Like somebody thought that they caused something to happen by stepping on a bug when it must have been just something that was going to happen even if you didn't step on the bug. Or I don't know, you know. It's hard to tell what the reasoning was. But to me, it's just like pure stupidity.
Is this like the law of not offending Jesus? Because Jesus might be mad if you call him by his name.
Who?
What? Christians, like they cannot say Jesus' name in the wrong context, right? Otherwise, they will hurt his feelings, and then they're unchristian.
Well, I mostly do it because, like, when I'm writing out my children's names, I don't like do the small case letter. I do the capital letter because they mean something to me. So when I type out Jesus, I wouldn't do it in the small J. I would capitalize it because Jesus means something to me. So that's where we get meaning, is because it holds value. So if something holds value, you're gonna give it more. You're gonna give it more. You're just gonna be. You're gonna be more thoughtful about it. Does that make
So,
sense?
do you believe in blasphemy? Do you think blasphemy is a sin?
To me, blasphemy is thinking that you aren't free to be who you are. That's blasphemy. But Christianity has a completely different definition of what blasphemy is.
Right,
Because
taking the Lord's name in vain, or
yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Okay. So let me put this another way. Do you think if you disrespect God's creation, you are thereby disrespecting God?
So you can't disrespect God's creation. You cannot do that.
Okay.
Because God gave us to have dominion over everything. And we do. We pretty much get what we want. We do what we want. Everybody does. So if you want to step on a fucking bug, you can step on the fucking bug.
But
Or
if
if you
God
don't want
created the
to.
bug for a purpose, and its purpose was not to be stepped on, then
No,
aren't you
its
in
purpose
violation of
was
God's
to
purpose?
feed the soil. The bugs feed the soil. So the plants get the microbes. If you don't have bugs in the soil, then the bugs can't feed the roots, the microbes, or something like that.
So God actually created bugs to be stepped on.
Exactly. To feed the birds of the air, and the birds become food for another part of the kingdom, the animal kingdom. He meant for that to happen, yes. That's why I get so crazy with fucking people that tell me that we're not supposed to be meat eaters. It's fucking bullshit.
Doesn't
They
that
don't.
just seem to justify what we would already be predisposed to believe, though? Like, we don't have to create any other
No, the scriptures
line
are
of reasoning.
clear. The scriptures are clear. Like clear as in crystal clear. I mean, animals are supposed to be for our sustenance. That means that your body is supposed to be well because you consume the meat that came from the bugs, that came from the birds, that those animals ate freely. And then you eat freely because of those animals. That's how God did it. It's a chain. It's called an
This may
animal
be
chain.
anecdotal, but like for me personally, I feel better when I eat a primarily vegetable diet, and I still eat meat, but much less frequently, and I feel better physically and mentally.
Really?
So I
The
do.
opposite is true for me.
I don't. Maybe it's a physiological thing that's going on there, but I think there's a lot of studies that say the same thing, that people seem to function better when they have a lower
So I'll
consumption of meat.
I'll tell you what happened to me. I did like a really strict diet, and I stuck to the vegetable shit, and I could not get satisfied, not at all. The only way was for me to eat meat, and then I realized after doing some research that we were meant to eat meat because that's where all your good calories are. The calories that
What
actually
sensation do you think you're seeking to satisfy, though? Is it just hunger, or what were you
it's
looking
it's
for
the
caloric
cells
intake for?
it's the cells of your body. Your body
Right. But
is made of protein, and animals are made of protein. Your body needs protein because it's constantly breaking down, and protein is the builder in your cells. So if you
no,
don't
wait. So tissues and muscles are made of protein. Like most of the body
exactly,
is just water, right?
well, your guts are different. Different. I mean, you can
But
eat
most of
guts,
your
but
body is just water.
um, well, it depends. Are you 100 pound vegan? Are you 100 pound meat eater? Are you a 200 pound man?
Have you
Or
ever
maybe it's
taken a sodium supplement?
I don't know what
Because I
that
assure
is.
you, if you take any type of high sodium supplement or something that causes you to retain sodium, and you'll get what you call water weight, and you'll see how your cells expand. You will merely retain water and gain mass and weight um, through that medium, right?
Yeah, I've done that before when I was pregnant. I gained water.
Of the body, like we're comprised of water. All of those cells, all of these pockets and tissues, they all just contain a lot of water and a bit of
Right.
protein that contains that water.
Oh.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So you're saying that protein doesn't need protein?
Well, yeah, we absolutely need to feed the tissues and the fats with protein and cholesterol and things like that. But it's a balanced system. But it's primarily dependent on water, and so all these things that are water soluble, right? We have to have the appropriate balance, the solution of this protein to fat to cholesterol to water, right?
Yeah, I don't believe any of that stuff. I mean, I have in the past believed that really strongly, but I've abandoned all that. So I think it's your mind. Your mind is stronger than matter because matter is what drives you. Like, So like if you think that you're unhealthy and that you're going to eat something that's going to counter the well benefits that you have in your mind, that your body's going to be sick if you eat certain foods, I think you make yourself sick. I think it's a mind thing. I really
Okay,
do.
well that's interesting. I used the wrong term there, so it's not water soluble is not the term I'm looking for, but
Okay.
it's something about being um, codependent on that thing, a relationship between the H2O and the other thing. But yeah, they do not necessarily dissolve. But okay,
Well,
so it's a
okay.
mind thing. But even if we're going with that, like, isn't okay? So the brain needs water, right? The brain needs water and oxygen before anything else, don't you think?
Yeah, I do believe water's important, but the rest of
And what
it
is the brain made up of?
matter. It's
What
made of
kind of
matter.
matter?
Atoms. ATOMS.
Well, not the specific matter, okay, but when we're talking about nutrition, what is
Isn't it
important for brain
plasticky
nutrition?
like or something? It's like plasticky.
Well, I think yeah, substantively it's something like that, but I think the brain is considered to be a primarily fatty organ, right? So there
Right.
are
And you can't
proteins
get
in
that from
there, but
vegetables. You can get it from meat, but not vegetables.
you can absolutely get fatties from vegetables. I think
Not
it's a,
the kind your brain needs.
right. You'd be more likely to get it from a dairy product, butter or milk.
That's true. But I'd prefer to eat meat. I'd rather have like fresh pork that was farm raised, fresh sheep, mutton, or fresh venison, fresh rabbit, chicken. That's just how I was raised, though. Not, I don't know anybody else raised like that. I mean, I've heard of people that, they did some of that, but I don't know. I just recently got into all of that and I love it. And I can see the value in it that I never could before.
Well, I can see a value in living off the land and being self-sustaining and being able to farm and hunt when it's applicable to you. I just don't know if that's the right route for most people to take. I don't think, if
Right.
you're
I'm
talking
not
about an
saying that what I do,
industrialized
you should
society,
do.
that's what people ought to do. Yeah.
I'm not saying you should do what I do. I just personally feel that it's a smarter way to go. So to me, it's there's the good, or no, there's the best, and then there's good, or no, I'm sorry, there's best, better, and there's good. You can do good by eating vegan if you want, avoiding bugs, don't step on them, don't kill anything, don't harm nothing. Or you can do what's better and eat uh, farm raised food. And then the best would be that you do your own. You plant your own seeds. You feed your own animals. You raise your own baby chicks that you hatched or that the mother hen hatched. Basically, you're getting back to your roots of who we really are. We're not meant to be
So kind of the
dependent.
back to the land kind of.
Yeah. And people help each other out because a lot of times you have a lot of extra vegetables. I mean, I would give them away. People walk in the door and they'd be like, "Can I have a cucumber?" I'm like, "Take them all." I mean, I was getting so many of them, and I would go out in the morning to feed my chickens when the sun came up, and I was picking cucumbers and eating them for breakfast right off the fucking vine. And then I was feeding some of them to my rabbits, some of them to my chickens. And then I was weeding my garden at the same time, and I started to get like a connection. Like, holy fuck. It was almost like I had a come to Jesus moment. Like everything is cyclical. And we are so dumbed down, we don't even see it.
How could we? I mean, if we're supposed to be removed from the Christ, then there'd be no way until we have to come to Jesus moment, right? That'd be the whole point of the
Yeah.
thing, right? Like,
Well, and I've always been one that liked to experiment, so I was always planting different things and trying different methods of planting. Like, I didn't plant my plants in the ground. I planted them in rotted manure, and they got huge. I mean, my marijuana plants, they fucking went crazy. And my marijuana versus commercial marijuana, so much better. That flavor,
well, I'll bet, yeah.
just the overall buzz, so much better. And
But
I'm not
we know
saying there
there's
isn't good
aspects
weed.
to having the rotten manure, right? That's appropriate fertilizer, right? And if we
Yeah.
don't have that, then yeah.
Well,
I
the
mean,
only way I
that's
had
science. That's plant science.
so the only way I had this manure was because I was raising rabbits and chickens, and it was piling up because I would give them fresh bedding, and then I would clean it every few days. And I didn't have to go into the ground. I didn't have to deal with the rocks, and I didn't have to worry that my plants weren't getting enough microbes because the manure was full of fungi and full of worms and full of microbes. I mean, it was full of everything. I could put
And
my
none of them
hand
ever called you a transphobe. I mean, that's helpful.
a transphobe.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just spinning back into.
Yeah, I know. If people got back to gardening, I think there would be a lot less drama.
So if I plant a plant and it starts to grow, but I cannot clearly sex the plant, right? And say maybe I can influence the maturation of this plant. So I can say, oh well, I might want it to seed, or I might not. So I might be able to influence its sexual maturity. Which way should I go?
Wait a minute. What's the benefit of manipulating the sex?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Well,
I mean,
from
would it
a
benefit me
standpoint,
more to have a fertile, productive plant, or one that produces seeds, or one that produces the fruit?
oh, definitely you want seeds. Definitely. Because the seed actually carries the whole genetic blueprint for the whole lifespan of that plant.
Okay, so seeds. Okay, so reproduction, fertility seems to be a primary driving factor that we should be working towards.
That's true. Fertility is important. That's where the microbes come in. And the
Then wouldn't it
fungi.
be sensible in the case of humans that we would want more functional reproducing humans?
I agree with that, I think. Wait a minute, where are you going with that?
Well, males cannot reproduce independently. Females can.
Independently, yeah.
Yeah, females can. All they need is it's an artificial sperm factor, and then females can reproduce. So shouldn't we want to have
Well, wait
more
a minute. Did you just say artificial
females?
sperm?
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be inseminated by natural means.
Why wouldn't they be?
Well, they don't have to be
No, I'm asking why wouldn't they be?
because they can do it some other way.
Well, why would you fix something that's not broken?
I can make it more efficient.
Efficient in what way?
It produces more successful offspring faster.
Why do you need more and faster?
Because we need more humans now to work all the machines and run all the cloning operations.
Why do you need to run machines? I'm so fucking confused.
Humans are obsessed with machines. We love making machines. We want machines to do everything for us, and we don't care what it takes.
Well, to me, that's ludicrous.
Okay, but I mean, you don't represent like most humans, right? Like you're kind of an outlier.
Well, that doesn't matter. I've always been somebody who kind of went to my own beat.
So do you think more people should be like you?
I mean, I think it's wonderful, but that's up to whoever wants to do whatever they want to do. I mean, it took a lot of years for me to get to where I'm at. And it is exhausting. It really is. And it was mostly exhausting because I was doing it all by myself. But I couldn't get, my kids would get interested, but then they would get bored with it because they'd rather be on the computer or on their phone or playing a game. To me, that's a waste of time. But I mean, I'm sitting here talking on the computer, but I'm also, I guess, thinking things through as I speak. That's how I look at it. I used to do this with my husband, and I kind of drove him crazy, but sometimes he was actually a good listener.
Well, this is kind of how I got where I am too, because we want to try to agree on like the best way to live, and how we can let people do their own thing. But then I'm like, well, maybe I should just teach them a little bit of my wisdom, because I've learned some things in my time here.
Yeah.
Who's to say that they shouldn't learn from my experiences, right? Because we all have different but shared experiences.
Exactly.
And
yeah, I mean,
like
I don't feel like I'm doing anything new. I feel like I'm just doing what's always been done, but I just didn't know it. Like I was completely ignorant of it. And in a way, I feel like I wasted a lot of time, but in other ways, I don't feel that way. Like I finally had to get to the point where I realized that God made everything just as it needs to be. Like it's perfect.
think about that realization, though. You're not doing anything new. You're doing things as they have always been done. So you think you're just
Exactly, because it's not
accepting
broken.
what somebody else told you? You don't see that it's
No,
just accepting
I
the status
sense
quo?
it. I sense it because I'm INFJ, so I got that intuitive, whatever it is. I don't even know, but I don't know if any of that's even valid. Like I fit like every bit of the INFJ, so I have a natural tendency to overthink and to do a lot of research and experiment and do all the weird shit that most people don't do.
Oh, okay. I remember reading about this before. Okay. And so it's not to invalidate or discredit that, but I just ask what criterion do you have for kind of making that? So, like you mentioned, your kids. Like, if you can't convince your kids of this thing, right? Or maybe your kids don't have the same intuition that you do, then how do you reconcile your experience to theirs, right? Because you have the INFJ thing going on, maybe they don't. right? But you
Right.
still need to, like, are you thinking that does it, or is, I don't want to say, I want to say, is there, do you think there's a level of experience that you have a sense of that other people do not?
Maybe. Is that I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely not normal in the sense that I enjoy putting my hands in the dirt. You know, I just enjoy all of that. Like it actually was my therapy when I would go out and take care of my plants and my animals, and even like shoveling the shit. It's like I don't know. There was something about it. It felt like I had a connection to something that I always wanted. So I would feel better mentally when I was gardening.
So this is how you connect not only to the world, but to your own sense of humanity, right? Like, it
I think
makes
we're
me feel
missing
more
out.
human to care for an animal, say, even
Yeah.
though if yeah. So, but you don't feel that same sense of responsibility for things that you think you need to sustain you.
So, like, say I raise a rabbit from a baby, and at 11 weeks, it's ready to be harvested. And, you know, I dispatch that animal so they don't feel anything. I make sure that the, what was it, a 22? No, it was a BB gun. So you hit their brain and they don't feel anything. So you do it in a humane way. So otherwise, that rabbit, if you don't feed that rabbit, it's gonna die. It will literally die. You can't even let that rabbit go because it will become food for the coyote that lives out behind the house. That's how it. That's how it is in the country. So you use that animal to sustain your family. You know what I mean?
But
Otherwise, the coyote gets it.
if the need for sustenance is no longer there, right? That's the question. So you can feed your family like using any other means, like so.
What other means?
Why do we? What?
What other means?
I don't know. I can go harvest a vegetable. I could slaughter my cat. I could go
What?
kill another human.
That's hilarious.
Why
Seriously.
wouldn't I kill my neighbor instead of the neighboring coyote?
Because life sustains life. Life doesn't. Life doesn't. I'm talking about human life. Uh, Human life doesn't try to eradicate its own race. Why would it? Because sooner or later, you're gonna kill everybody, right?
Probably. Well, I guess on that note, okay, so we went over a lot there, but primarily, so there's a hierarchy. Humans are at the
Definitely.
second tier of that hierarchy, right? We have God, then man, then all the other shit underneath us, right?
Right.
Okay,
And
so
everything is full circle. All of it is full circle. It's not linear up and down. It's full circle. Everything's a circle.
as long as all man exists in this second tier hierarchy, right? Like we got God, here, man, here. animals, plants. Okay, here. Why should we not
Bugs.
do everything in our power to sustain man in that second tier? Shouldn't that be our goal? Like all men are supposed to be
Oh, I agree
protected,
with you 100% on that.
which includes women, of course, and every other type of people, right?
Right. Well, so I believe that the human being is both male and female. There isn't a gender. We weren't created as a man or a woman. We were created as a male and a female.
So by that logic, I mean, I think a trans identity would be closer to godliness, right? Like trans people are just or non-binary people, right? That are more godlike.
They're closer to what? Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so you would probably say that we should do everything we can to support those people in their endeavors and
Support
help
in
them
what
function.
way?
Well, to make sure that they have whatever treatments they need to
Okay.
function in society, to make sure that they feel accepted and included, and that their
Okay.
voices are heard in the political system.
So are you singling out this certain class of people that call themselves transgender?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm singling them out. I think conservative Christians in the U.S. are singling them out for particular reasons, and I'm
Do you
trying to
think
fight
that
back
that's
against that.
healthy? You think that's healthy?
I think they're disproportionately neglected in the healthcare system. They're abused in the justice system,
Oh, I
and
agree
they're
with
not
you.
heard from in politics in general, right? So it's only through mediums like this that we really hear the opinions of the trans community on a broad
Okay.
spectrum, right? Like we don't tend to hear that on C-SPAN or in any of these debates
Right.
going on in Congress or anything.
So, but what does that have to do with stepping on bugs?
Oh well,
What
okay.
was your
What
point?
is our duty? So yeah, full circle. What is our duty, right? So when I talk about not doing harm, like we're not intentionally doing harm. Starting a new note here. So
So I
harm.
think everybody
We want
should
to
live.
avoid harm, right? So no harm, but
Okay.
here we are, and occasionally harm is necessary. But if we can avoid it, we should do whatever we can to avoid doing that harm. And so instead, carrying the broom and sweeping away the bug, right? The bug is whatever X hypothetical thing that we might do harm to, but we go out of our way not to harm it, right? And that's the way we should treat other humans, especially vulnerable humans in our society, like the trans community, right? We should go out of our way not to harm them rather than worrying about our own sensibilities.
So
Like,
how would you
what does
accomplish
this
that?
limit? Well, I would start out by being more mindful in my speech. That's one way. You can be more mindful in your speech and say, oh, even though I think it's ridiculous and I can say anything I want, if I don't say this thing, I would avoid harming X number of people. And so that's a better course of action.
So what kind of phrase would the average person know well enough not to use a phrase that would offend a transgender human being?
Well, I think we can educate ourselves that way. I don't think we should be expected to, on all counts, know all of that. But I think once we accept that we can be educated toward that, that should be a goal.
Okay.
Like rather than saying trans people just need to get over it and I'm going to say whatever I want, saying, oh, I need to work on being more inclusive, that's a me thing. And then actually doing that and working towards that goal, right?
So So, like, it kind of hits a nerve with my personality. I mean, I could have been bitter that I didn't, I guess, relate to my peers because I just, I told you, I got the INFJ thing. I mean, I didn't ask for it. Um, but you know what? I feel like, so because of my personality, I got mocked a lot, and by my own family, and I knew they loved me, but a lot of it was intentional to harm, and I knew in the back of my mind I was loved though, and so it's hard because I don't feel like I would be the person I am unless I went through those tough times. Like, it was tough. It wasn't anything easy about it. That's all I got to
Would you
say
call
about
that
that.
like character building? Like experiencing that abuse built your character a bit to make
Yeah,
you.
and so it makes me wonder if transgender, maybe their character's being built and they are unaware of that fact. And, you know, I mean, they're becoming who they are because of of the contradictions they have all around them. People that treat them like they're not important and they don't hold any value. I mean, that's kind of been my own. I feel like I've always struggled with that. So, like, I have to find my own identity. And for me, it was like gardening. And, and well, it's always been God. Well, since I was 16.
I think we when you say gardening, we tend to confuse tasks with our identity. Like I've always identified myself as a musician, and lately I've been kind of breaking out of that because I think music and songwriting is something that I do that takes me away from whatever this identity that I live in is, right? Like it's another aspect of my personality. Like but my true
Yeah,
identity
you're
is
right.
the way that people see me, the things that I do, right? Like my identity is I'm a cis man or whatever. Okay, keep it
What's
simple.
that mean?
But it just means that I tend to have sex with women and I have a penis.
Oh,
But I like to dress however I want, and I'm free spirited and all of that
right.
stuff.
Yeah, I've always been like
So
that.
it's like there's the aspects of like who you are and your personality, and then what you do for a living. But then there's like the thing that you're passionate about, and I think that's what really defines people. Like most people tend to define what they're passionate about as being identical with them, right? So if you're like very passionate about your sexual orientation, you're going to say, "Well, I belong to this community, and we have a different sexual orientation than the norm, and we need to promote and advocate this idea." If you're very passionate about gardening, again, so you're going to say, I am all about plants all day. I need to like push plants on other people. I want you to look at my plants like this is my thing. And, similarly with a musician, well, I wrote this song. I think it's going to be the greatest song ever. And I hope you think so too. Check out my new song. And so we're all kind of promoting those things that we're passionate about. And we don't see them as being very separate from our identity. Right. But in reality, it's a form of art. It's a
Expression.
form of
Yeah.
expression. Yeah. So I think when you speak about that, like the thing that you want to express is your love for plants, and you seem to be more you tend towards eating meat, whereas some people would say, well, I tend towards eating plants, and you're like, well, it almost sounds like you're saying there's really not much difference between eating the meat and the plants if you think of it in a certain way, right?
Yeah, because they both grow and they're both harvested. Yeah, I hear ya.
And the purpose is to feed people.
Sustenance, yeah. So that you eat off the fat of the land. That's what the scriptures say. The fat of the land is what feeds your brain. So it can be animals and it can be vegetables. But it depends on your climate. If you live in a climate like I live in, you have a very short growing season. You have to be like really on your game. And then you got to deal with like shitty weather. Like last summer, my garden was not that good because it was so cold and overcast that my plants just didn't get the sunlight, or it got too much rain. You know what I mean? Like, and then we had an early summer. The summer was in the spring. We had like 100-degree days where normally we don't get that till the end of August. We got it in April or May, and it was weird. So like my plants just didn't thrive. I mean, I did harvest, but nothing like I normally would.
Do you think is that a God thing? Like, was there some divine intervention or lack thereof, or was it?
So you
just
mean like the
normal?
weather was because of my
Yeah,
mood?
you didn't pray for rain enough. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was having a tough time because my family, um, well, they didn't like me being on YouTube. They didn't want me to be talking about God because I was spending more time working through some of that. And I guess I started taking the attention away from them. You know, my attention was going onto that and not on them. I mean, they were adults though. So it was a constant like battle. I felt like they were pushing me in a corner to the point where, I mean, I actually left my husband. I told you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I mean, to me, it was like the conditions just weren't there for the plants to thrive. Kind of like I wasn't thriving in my home environment. I just had a lot on my plate.
So I guess where I'm really going with that, if I can try to piece it back together, is like, okay, so in the same way um, that we said, so I think, do you think caring for those plants is in a way a form of sustenance for you, right? Like, so it's equally important to eating whatever thing you need to eat to survive, like sleeping X amount of. So caring for the plants is just a part of that same system that keeps you, Jody, going, right? Like from day to day. This is a part of the function.
Right.
And
So are
the
you
way
saying that
we are
my
designed.
diet needs to be like certain, like a rigid set of eating habits, I guess?
Well, no, I wouldn't make that claim for anybody. I mean, I would
Okay.
suggest that you try it maybe, but no, I wouldn't say that you need to do any one thing or another. But I'm trying to figure out why. So for me, I try to figure out why some people seem to need religion and other people maybe don't, or the people that feel they don't need religion, why are they wrong? Or if we all feel like there's a spiritual connection between us, why do some people think it's a God thing and other people just think, well, that's just the world, man? Like,
So I think
right?
that God purposed for us to misunderstand. So like you just said, like some people, they just, they gravitate towards that. And then some people, they repel that. They don't want anything to do with it. My mom was like, my stepmom that raised me, she was like that. She did not want to talk about God. I mean, and I knew that I couldn't mention God to my mother. I mean, it was that bad. She was pretty tough. She had a bad experience herself when she was like 8, 9 years old. Her mother stood up in church and chewed out the reverend, because it was something to do with them not taking care of a family that wasn't coming to church regularly. And my grandmother like made a fool of him in front of the whole congregation. And my grandmother said, "You will never see me step foot in this building again." And my mother was embarrassed. So she was really young, and she had like this really bad idea of who God was. And that's the woman that raised me.
Well, I'd say they sound like some good Christians right there. I mean, I
Yeah,
like
my
that.
grandmother that raised her was 46 when she gave birth to her. Okay. My grandmother became a sergeant. I mean, the whole medals, the whole uniform, everything. She became a sergeant in the Salvation Army here in, I think, Elmira, or maybe it was Corning. I don't know. She was
Right,
like
okay.
really
Yeah,
involved. I mean, she took it completely serious. But that was after my mother was already an adult. You know, she'd moved on at that point.
okay.
But
All right.
what's
Well,
weird though, yeah, it's getting
no, go
really
ahead.
late. Well, I don't
Yeah,
want to.
yeah. Go
It's
ahead and
almost
finish what you're gonna
4 o'clock in
say.
the morning. Oh, so I never could talk to my parents about God, because to me they came across like it was offensive to talk about God. So yeah, I got raised by heathens. I mean, I love them. I do.
Yeah,
I
see,
love
I
them.
don't want to make it that way for people, and I don't feel offended. I sometimes feel like people are just talking at me, or when they're preaching or whatever. But as long as we're on this level, like I don't feel that way, and we could
Right.
just have an honest conversation, and that's cool. Um, but yeah, it's 4 in the morning where you're at, going on 1 a.m. here.
Yeah, and I gotta pack my bags because my boyfriend wants me to leave. So
Oh, yeah, we cannot keep him waiting. But I appreciate you, Jody. And I think you have very interesting and valuable experiences and insights you bring to the streams I've seen you on. You're not the average Christian person, with the same old tired arguments,
yeah, I've never
I
been
can relate to a
average.
lot more of your experiences. So, so I enjoy that.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking it over. My
I,
mom
I
used to
just,
say that I was either all or I was nothing. So she would say to me, "What is it about you, Jody? It's either you are all in or you are all out." And that is exactly who I am. I'm either all in or I'm all out. I have slammed the door on so many things in my life, like literally. And when I say things, I mean people,
I
because
can understand that.
I get pissed off. And I've done that
Um,
to God my whole life too. I've become an atheist on and off most of my life.
Oh no! See, we don't want the fumbling atheist. We want the solid atheist who is completely certain of their conviction. Otherwise, we might not be able to help ourselves
Yeah,
here.
there has to be some doubt in there.
Do you have
Because
anything you want to promote or shill like before we sign off tonight, or like anything you're doing on your channel, or
I can't think of
like you,
anything. I think my bladder's gonna explode.
Okay, well, don't let that happen. I'm going to thank
Yeah.
William Freeman, who is, still not an atheist. Somehow this was all his fault. And, he might be a
because of the
racist
raccoon?
transphobe. Yeah, I don't know. Raccoon piece of shit. I don't.
And my
Sorry,
dad was a
excuse my
coon
language.
hunter. I had a
Yeah,
coon
yeah.
dog. My boyfriend had a coon dog, and my father was a coon hunter. I used to go coon hunting with my father. And to me, a coon is a fucking coon. He would make money on the hide. He had like chest freezers, and he had, he'd fill it with deer hide, with muskrat and raccoon, all kinds of animals. And then he would just make a bunch of money off of them.
And many thank yous to Ox, Casey, Randy, Cher Wilkes. There's other people. God, it's just the cat, Bugs,
Yeah, we were
Roy's
all over the
emails.
place.
Yeah, anything but coons. Anything but coons. Atheist Mo. I'm.
Can we dress them up or something?
There's.
Would they be?
Yeah, no, there's nothing racist about this ever. Like we don't ever do racism here at the Trusty Ape channel. It's not allowed unless you're telling stories and anecdotes about the past. That's the only time we'll allow it. But other than that, I mean, just be well, stay trusty, and
Yeah.
call me
To me,
daddy.